Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessino. This is your deadline stream, and quite frankly, I don't think we're going to be talking a lot about Arsenal incomings from now until the end of the window. I think there's only about 2 hours left or something like that, and from a variety of different sources, it looks like incomings are done for Arsenal in particular. There are some players still looking to go, or players that could potentially leave the club either permanently or on a loan. So we have to see how those kind of shake out. But what I want to know from you guys is how you guys are feeling about this window. Me and some of my friends are going to be doing a more in-depth review on the transfer window and giving it our grade and analyzing it from start to finish. But I want to know how you guys are feeling on this deadline date about the business that we've done. There's been a lot of talk in the media and in the Twitter sphere, or whatever you want to call it, about Arsenal spending 150 million and they haven't improved at all. And I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration, and it's exacerbated by the horrendous start that we've had to the season. But what I will say is that for us to begin a season with a midfield of Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, Mohamed Elneny, Sambi Lokonga, and Maitland-Niles, that is so disappointing. So disappointing. One of my biggest thing for the window was getting a starting central midfielder. That was the one thing that I figured if we got that done, that would improve us exponentially. Because the weakest part of Arsenal Football Club is not the offense, is not the defense, is our inability to compete in the midfield. And with the current profiles that we have and the unreliability that we seem to have in Thomas Partey, it was very important for us to bring in a new midfielder. Now, whether you wanted it to be Basuma or Ruben Neves, Bruno Guimaraes, or Houssem Aouar, I don't think any of us really counted on that person being Granit Xhaka, and Granit Xhaka on an extended deal. How that has bit us in the ass already. Not even a week after he re-signs a new deal, he's getting a red card. And it's insult to injury to go through this entire window and not even be linked to a midfielder. It didn't even look like they tried. And so for me, I have a sour taste in my mouth. I'm not happy about this window because I just feel if we had any ambition to be competitive in the next couple of seasons, we would have brought in a midfielder that makes us more competitive. So at this point, I may feel different tomorrow, or maybe we play against Norwich and Odegaard really shows up and Ben White's back and we can see what he's all about, and Tomiyasu is playing. But at the moment, I'm just like, how dare we go through this window and have money and not spend the money on a midfielder? How do we do that? I'm very much so, there needs to be changes up top. This is unacceptable. We may look down the line 2-3 seasons from now and say this window was a masterclass, but at the moment, what you're basically telling me is that we're not concerned about being competitive right now. I mean, maybe you can't be a part of 2 projects at once. Maybe a short term and a long term is not something that we could do, but I just feel like as Arsenal Football Club, we need to be in Europe and we need to be pushing up the table, and another mid-table finish is just unacceptable at this point. And I feel like that's the direction in which we're heading because we've decided not to improve the one position that will most certainly would have been a difference maker. It catapults us up the table if you have a new midfielder there, 1 to 2 new midfielders that can compete in this league. So those are my true feelings at the moment. And again, I may feel different tomorrow. It's not that I don't like Odegaard. It's not that I don't like Ramsdale or Ben White. It's just I cannot believe that we didn't bring in a starting midfielder, whether Xhaka left or not. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let's see what you guys have in the comment section. Before I read out some of your comments, I'm going to bring in Souls. Souls is here. Hey, Souls.
Hey. They told us to be excited, right? Just a bit.
Yeah, well, they told us to Judge them at the end of the window, and we're judging.
Oh,
I mean,
hell yeah, I am
yeah, we're
judging.
judging now. I mean, Matt G is here, says, "Hey Jess, hey Matt, how are you?" G Kasi says, "Hi Jess, hope you've had a good day." I have had a good day despite. G Kasi says, "No camera, no Awa, no Grumareich." Nope. I was told that because of AFCON, that meant something, but there were other midfielders that we could have brought in. Hey Gunner King, yeah, let's vent. It's time to have our say, have our session, have a therapy session, if that's what you want to call it. Tony says Renar Singh gone, A+ window. I mean, we will talk about some of the key outgoings, that I think are good, but ultimately some of them we will see them back at London Colony next like summer, and we'll have the same issue again trying to get rid. So we've put it off, but it still has not been solved. Matt G said Runnerson has just left. I think it's a loan with an option. So again, it's not a permanent solution, but it takes him off of the books for now, or just off of the roster for now, which leaves space for us to make sure that we have Leno, Akwanko, and Ramsdale as our goalkeepers, which is fine, I guess. Gunner King says we are getting cooked. I mean, it's hard not to feel that way. It's hard not to feel that way. It's constant. Everywhere that I go, it's, don't you hate your window? Don't you feel like you're incompetent? Oh my goodness, you guys are the worst. How are you guys going to spend 150 million and not? And I think some of it is context and just people wanting to go in on Arsenal, but they have a point. They have a point. Souls, do you think that there is a point there about the way our window has gone? I mean, in 2 or 3 seasons, we could look at it as a masterclass, but in the short term, it does look like a lot of money spent on players that may or may not improve us now, which should be important to this club, right?
Yeah, for me, I thought they were going to improve us this season, get the starting 11 players, because we don't have Europe, we don't have many competitions to actually compete in, and it's just a way back into Europe, really. That was the objective for me anyway this season. Get your top 6, get it back into even Europa League, and then we'll kick on next season and we'll start getting those Lakongas in. Well, Tavares is the only one I think we needed to do as a depth signing or a secondary signing, was that left back. But everywhere else, when we look at it, that we clearly had the money to improve us. And if they had used that 130, 150 million pounds to improve the first team, get in Basuma or Wa or those positions like your midfielders, your cams, your secondary midfielder, and then bring the right back in, then you can go into next summer and go, you know what, now we need to focus on the bench. But what they've done is the opposite. They've looked at the bench first for some reason and then not really improved the 11. So I don't understand why that's the thought process, and why did we spend the entire summer looking at a war for 50 million pounds, and when it comes to 20, 25 million, we're not even looking to pull the trigger. For me, it's like, what is that? Like, I'm sorry, you've been talking about a process for the longest time. What is it? Because I'm sorry, like, United have always said, look, we want to pay 90 million. They for Sancho. Dortmund wanted 120 million last summer. This summer, it came down to, I think, 80 million, and they pulled the trigger because they got it in the evaluation they wanted it at. Awar, we were willing to pay 50 million, and all of a sudden, when the price has dropped half the price, we're not interested. Firstly, did you do your due diligence? Secondly, I'm sorry, what's happened in one season that's made you be put off a while? Because I'm sorry, he's not done anything. If there was an attitude issue, you should have seen that before. Because I don't think he's done anything differently this season that suggests how that's changed. I could understand if he had a falling out. I could understand if some breaking news behind him came out, but nothing. We've not heard anything of him causing trouble. So why is that all of a sudden for half the price? Do you know what it is? These men are copping out. And that's why I keep saying, right, I feel for Arteta, but he is part of the problem. But for me, Edu, Vinay need to go before I think any manager's willing to touch Arsenal. If they go, then we can talk about Conte. Then we can talk about Luis Enrique. Then we can talk about Ten Hag wanting to even consider it. And that's the problem, because Edu doesn't instill confidence, nor do people think he's got the experience that people... Think about it. If you're the most experienced and you're the one managing the pitch, but the people who are bringing the players in are less experienced than you or don't have a clue what they're doing, are you really wanting to go there? Or are you going to be one of those up and comers because they're up and comers? That's all you're going to hire. You're not going to hire someone who's going to tell you how to do your job.
Yeah, and I feel the same way as Matt G says. I'm disappointed by not getting another CM. I can't understand that decision. George's opinion says, I hope we stay healthy in midfield. We will end up signing a midfielder on loan in January. I mean, it's pretty freaking obvious that we didn't complete the mission. You know, the mission was to improve the midfield. Everybody said that. The only person that didn't get that memo was Adu. Like, he didn't get it. And it just feels like he took the easy way out, like you said, you know, and I'll just re-sign Xhaka. It's so much easier. You know, I wasn't able to get Locatelli, which was just so stupid. I don't even know why you're going in that direction. You're probably looking at Wolves asking you for 35 million for Ruben Neves, and I don't really want to go after him. I don't think I'm gonna have to actually negotiate. So let's just re-sign Xhaka and just forget about it. And it's just poor, you know. And again, I may feel different, but I just think we
Do
missed
you know what it
something.
is? Do you know because of how lazy he is? I'm not even bothered that fans want to talk about his barbecues and his holidays. I don't have a problem. Go on holiday if you want to have your barbecues, if you're doing your fucking job. But if you're copping out at every flipping transfer, how long has Basuma worked for Arsenal? He wants to come. Look, just because they won 35 million, firstly, you had the money. Like, I'm not even giving him any cut because he has no reason, right? And I am going to blame him. I know Arteta's the one on the pitch and he sets out the tactics, but if you're not going to give him the tools, then why have a novice manager? Why bring in someone who you clearly knows needs a first team more than he needs a bench? We're not in Europe, so what is Lokonga any good for? Yes, when he goes when the AFCON comes, but then you bring Awar in. Like, there's so much more logic, right, that you could imply with 150 million pounds. I just think this is why my energy is more on. I can't say Arteta out until I see Edu go, or they both need to go together. But I can't. I'm not having Arteta get sacked when
And
Edu's
Edu
still in the job.
stay. Exactly. Exactly. George's opinion, we obviously had the money, but badly. How many
Not even
transfer
allocated.
windows?
It was just badly done.
I mean, how many windows have we went through where they just said we were skint and the only thing we're going to be able to do is do loans? That's been like our story. Arsenal skint, Arsenal skint. We had money this time. We had money last summer. We had money this season that we brought Pepe, and we've spent it poorly every single season. It's a disease. We don't do it right. You have 75 million to spend. You don't 72 million to spend. You don't spend it on Pepe. That's like 3 players that you could have brought in. You have 75 million. You don't spend it on Ben White and Ramsdale. You bring in 3 players that are going to really change the game for you. 150 million. They could have brought in 3 players for 50 million. High level players, and it would have been just fine. And a backup left back on loan or something like that. I mean, it doesn't scream we're willing to compete now, but we know the ramifications of us not being competitive now. If we don't show signs of progression, could be really detrimental to the club. You know, you can't just ignore right now thinking it's just going to be okay when Aston Villa's getting better, West Ham's getting better, Leicester's getting better, Everton's getting better, Leeds is getting better. Like, we're falling behind and we're putting a lot of faith into this project. And I think the players have a better chance of being successful than the management. You know, I think the management is more the issue than the players. I think if you get the right people involved with the players, you'll be fine. But right now, looking at what we've done, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I need a cocktail. Like, I'm just so like, wow, is this it? And you guys, I've been awake pretty much since midnight. I took a little like 2-hour nap, and it's why do we even do these deadline streams? Let's be real. Like, when's the last time? I mean, Thomas Party, yes, but it's never really that exciting for us on the last day. And a lot of the excitement was yesterday, and we weren't doing anything yesterday. I mean, our window has been finished for a long time, hasn't it?
And I think that's the shocking thing. It's like you've seen now 3 results which don't fill anyone with confidence. Anyone who's, and the thing is, yeah, Eddie, you were at the game. You were at these games. You were present. What did you like? You're an ex-footballer. It's not like, you're Richard Garlick who's got a law background, or you're from a business background where, I can sit there and go, okay, maybe you don't have ball knowledge. You were an ex-Invincible. Yes, you did play a huge role in it, but you were in and around the Arsenal squad that was successful. How are you looking at this as an ex-Arsenal man and thinking, three losses on the bounce? Okay, one is the shock, right? Brentford, Chelsea. Okay, they are European champions. Okay, fine. Then you've got English champions. Fine, but how are you looking at the performances on that pitch and thinking, yeah, actually, forget it. We won't sign anyone. But that's, for me, is why I want Eddie White, because what are you seeing that's showing us that we don't need improvements right now?
Yeah, I mean, we could have even tried to bring in somebody on loan just to patch it up for the midfield. I don't really understand why we didn't just try to get a solution. I know that maybe a permanent solution would have been really difficult, but we couldn't have just, I mean, I'm sure we could have found something. I saw other teams attempting to get things done. Wolves were trying to bring in Renato Sanchez. Newcastle and Wolves were also trying to bring in Kamara. Other teams were actually attempting. I would have more respect for them if I saw them attempt and fail than act as though midfield isn't an issue. Daniel Constant is a new member of the channel. Thank you so much for joining. I have your comment up on the screen. You were saying this was the window to get absolutely everything right. It'll now take years to recover from the errors of this transfer window. So, yeah, I mean, the one thing I can say, Daniel, about this window is that we avoided the window like it's like bingo. Every window we do the same thing. We have a Willian, we overpay for something. We avoided at least the Willian, and we were able to get Willian off the books. And maybe that's where the 20 million came from, if we're honest, for Tomiyasu, from Willian being gone. But I don't think there was any I don't think there's any real players that have come in that are going to hamstring us to anything, because they're not on astronomical wages. They're not old. If we needed to move them on, we probably could. I just think that we're not going to be as competitive as we want to now. Are there any of the deals that you can think of, Souls, that you feel like are going to hurt us in the long run?
The only one is Ben White, just because it costs 50 million. But I don't doubt his quality. I just think if he doesn't live up to an expectation, or if Arsenal are in the decline they're in, then that will naturally bring his value down. Not because he's not good, but it's just a perception that he won't be good. But on like what Daniel was saying, it's the perfect time. Has the market, since the whole Neymar debacle, since the Van Dijk and the Allisons going for crazy amounts of money for their positions, this is the lowest the market's been in a very long time, because of COVID, because of the financial implications that a lot of clubs are going under. And especially when you look at Ligue 1 and La Liga, for example, they don't really have owners. They don't have a financial owner. They have to find and seek for investments. This was the perfect opportunity to go and raid these places for bargains. Like Awar, for example, only being 25 million, when just a few summers ago he was 50 odd million. That's going to be something we regret. It's not so much the signings we bought in, it's the signings we could have bought that we're going to end up regretting. And like I said, the only financial one is Ben White for me. The rest of them, to be honest, we paid pennies for. We didn't really pay that much. Like Nakonga, for example, came in for around 10 to 15 million. Tavares obviously coming in for 10 million. I do think we'll get that back, because they are only 19, 20. So we might get 15 to 20 million, if anything. But it's more the transfers we could have got that are going to hurt us, because let's say, for
The
example,
deals that could have been, yeah.
yeah, because Awar might be 40 million next summer. Then what do we do? Then that's a further financial implication on Arsenal Football Club. That eats into the budget even further than just getting him for the cheapest we could probably get him, which is, I know we wanted him for 20 million, but fucking hell, it's 5 million. Stop crying over it. It's not the end of the world. And it's like, we're willing to, this is why I said I don't mind Ben White coming in as long as other signings get done. But it seems like Ramsdale and White, that money would have transformed the first team. And that's why I'm against him.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. I saw a comment from, I know it was you, Oya Talani, but it's not this comment. but you were saying that this window is not that bad. And I know that, it's not that bad. Like, we'll do our ratings, will go into depth about the speed and what we had said before the window started, what we expected, and go into depth about the window tomorrow. But what I will say is that I can't rate it more than like a 6, but I mean, that's still not good for me. Like, you know what I mean? I still think there's some good things to take away from it. Like, these players can become good. I can't get over the midfielder. It's gonna take me a couple weeks to get over that.
This
I'm
is
gonna
the
tell
thing.
you.
And I've said it. I'm happy with all the signings. It's not that I'm not happy with them. It's just the wrong time. I think those signings were something we should have maybe done next season, or those types of signings, or we needed to have an even bigger window and bring in those first team additions as well as them. And that's the problem. It's like we can bank on the future, but if we don't have a present, then what? Like, what if this season goes catastrophically wrong because we decided not to compete with the big boys and we end up like 10th or something? Then it's going to look like, look, eighth, and let's say eighth again, right? Players are going to look and go, what? Like, and then if Arteta's trying to say, oh, look, and they're going to be like, well, you've said this for the past 2 seasons. You're not really showing it us. Results do speak. You can talk about a process for only so long. But if you're getting eighth, people are going to be like, well, where's the improvement? Where are you improving that we can come in and actually join this project? And that's the problem. It's going to start to become a feeble lie, which people are going to not believe in anymore.
Yeah, and I also think there's an element of us needing that signing to come through before the end of the deadline to make us feel like we're going in the right direction. Because although we've signed quite a bit of players, I mean, we've made 6 signings, which is a lot. That's a lot, and they're all permanent as well. It's not like they're loans. None of them make you really jump for joy. I don't think any of them really get you off your seat because, I mean, really, the type of players that make you really excited are the ones that are the attacking players. And we've brought in just Odegaard in the attacking part of the pitch. We brought in 3 defenders, I think, and Ben White, Tavares, and Tomiyasu, a goalkeeper, a midfielder that's going to play quite deep, and Odegaard, and who else? Who am I missing? Is that it?
Well, signings, right? Did you say Lakonga?
Yeah, I said Lakanga. Is there one more? No, that's it.
Yeah.
So Odegaard is the only one that will really affect the top end of the pitch, and I think that's where you get the more excited. You're like, okay, well, this is exciting, and we really, didn't do that, and we've seen Odegaard before. So I think we were kind of looking for something at the end of this window to make us feel better about those 3 losses, and we really didn't get it. So maybe that's where some of the disappointment is coming from, Souls. What do you think?
I think for us it's not so much we didn't, because the thing is Lacazette and Aubameyang probably are good enough to get us top 6. I know their numbers haven't been great recently, but I do think as a cohesive unit, in terms of just having them 2 on the pitch, they'll get you 15 goals a season each minimum, in my opinion. Like, that it's good enough for a top 6 challenge. But we needed something more in that midfield. We needed a plan B. We needed to be able to change that midfield a little bit more than we have, because there are games where, let's say, for example, Burnley last season when it was 1-1 because of the Xhaka Leno incident that happened. That's when, if you bring on someone that's a little bit more attack minded, have that sole DM, and then just turn it into a 4-3-3, go a bit more attacking on that game, that changes things. But we haven't done that. And that's where, for me, the problem comes in. Obviously, we don't know about Tommy. Well, I don't know anything about Tomiyasu to be able to say how good he is as a right back, and if that's the solution that we've been looking for in terms of over Chambers and Bellerin. And obviously, with Maitland-Niles staying, we'll see how that one goes, if he's committed to playing right back or not. Or is that signing indicating that we are going to go 3-4-3 now, or 5-2-3, whatever you want to look at it. But then it doesn't make sense why you bought Odegaard in, because you bought him in as a 10 rather than as a winger. If you were going to do that, you'd sign a War to make that in 10. Or you'd get a war now to show that actually we're going 3-4-3. Tomiyasu's going to be one of the centre backs in this system because he's got a ball progression. He can do those things, and he's obviously 6'2", and apparently he's really good in the air. I don't know because I ain't watched him. I'm just going off of what people have told me. And then obviously keeping Maitland-Niles then makes sense because then you can have Maitland-Niles on one wing, then obviously Taney on the other. And if you have to bring Tavares in, it's fine because even though he's so raw, he's got that through back to kind of secure him. But then why not bring in... I'm not saying it has to be a War, by the way, but someone like him who can play the midfield and who can play on the wings as well. And
we missed a trick. It's so obvious that we missed something. It's really like the more we talk about it, it's so obvious that we didn't do the right thing because there were so many different options.
This suggests that Edu and Arteta, because we already knew it. Like Edu and Arteta seem to be on different hymn sheets, but if he goes 3-4-3, that confirms it for me because I'm like the signings don't make sense for a 3-4-3 though.
No, they definitely... I think once you have Odegaard, you've solidified a 4-2-3-1. You're not going to play a midfield 3 with Martin Odegaard as an 8. No way, Jose. Until we become a better team and he progresses in his development, he's a nailed-on 10 for me. So I think you're playing a 4-2-3-1 no matter what. The thing about Tomiyasu, we can talk about him a little bit more now, is just, he comes off center backy. He's not the type of right back that Arsenal fans are going to get excited about because what we want to see is a Hakimi, somebody like that. The best
example is a Wan-Bissaka. That's what I get with that kind of vibe, yeah.
Yeah, he's more of a one. I would say not as bad with his technical ability. I would say Aaron Wan-Bissaka is very limited technically, and Tomiyasu has more of a pass on him, a little bit more skill on him, passing range on him, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka doesn't have that. But in terms of him being a shutdown defender, really good defensively, you hit the nail on the head with that, and that's just not what Arsenal fans want to see. They want to see attack, and hearing defensive...
What do you think of that kind of... Like, let's say he is like a Wan-Bissaka, but obviously with the passing and everything, but would that be something you'd be like, you know what, actually makes sense? Or are you more... Actually, we needed a bit more attack. Me.
When we were talking about it originally, we had spoken about it multiple times, and we talked about right back, and none of us really knew what direction the club was going to go in. I remember several times where we were just kind of like, well, it could be Max Aarons, or it could be, Majraoui or Selic or Tyler Adams. It could be Riddle Baku. It could be any of these types of guys. Because we didn't really know what direction the club wanted to go in. And because you have Cedric, Bellerin, and Chambers, it's unclear what we wanted to do. But Arteta's insistence of playing Chambers, for me, made me think we were going in the inverted right back role with that right back being more like a center back and playing more like a midfielder pinched in and taking his moments to bomb forward, but not as often as we probably want, not like a Bellerin. And so when you look at Tomiyasu and the fact that we were also interested in Emerson, it makes it obvious that that's what we wanted. Somebody taller, somebody that's not really... He's not a small little winger type. Like, he's definitely going to be sitting back in that back line / midfield. So I think it is what it is. He can also fill in at center back, so it gives you more cover there. But I mean, it's not... I don't really mind. My main concern is get Arteta's system there and decide whether or not it works. If he needs Tomiyasu so for us to know if it could work, then fine. I just want to win. It's not about my personal preference. My personal preference is to play like Liverpool. I prefer that. But if this is what's good for Arteta's system, then I want Tomiyasu because Arteta needs to be successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I think because Tomiyasu is such an outward... Oh, you can read the super chat first and then I'll...
Oh, really quick. Tahir says Arsenal should got Saul on loan plus 35 mil permanent. I mean, Saul is not coming to Arsenal, but I get what you're saying. And there was another super chat here from Gio. Thank you so much for your super chat. Says Arteta's biggest problem his whole time at Arsenal is always playing Xhaka. He slows down the build-up play and is too slow to play in the Prem. I mean, yeah, facts. He does slow everything up. and he is too slow to play in the Prem, but we've doubled down on him and made him a pillar of our midfield for the next 3 years, so it is what it is. We better hope that Thomas Partey stays fit. I mean, that's our only hope. And on that, we have Harry here. Hey, Harry.
Right on cue for some Granit Xhaka defending, hey? Right on cue. No, I'm gonna leave. If I knew I was gonna come into some Granit Xhaka, hey, I'm gonna go.
No. People are gonna talk about Granit. What's that?
Oh, I've just made a coffee. I'm super tired. In a very flamboyant pink cup, it looks like. But
isn't that like a takeout cup? Sorry for dissing your cup.
I do like
no,
it.
It's not. It's
cute.
Yeah, it's got like a rubber.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's
But
just the camera makes it look like one of those, like you got a sleeve on there.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, no. I have not left the house to buy any coffee today. That's for sure.
No, I get you. Well, I want to get your thoughts, Harry, on Tomiyasu. What you think about him as a profile? Are you excited about him? Like, what do you think? I'll leave you guys because I do have to put. I'm gonna eat during this stream, guys. I'm starving, so I'm gonna put my noodles in the pot, and I'll be right back.
Oh, nice. Enjoy the.
Come on, Harry. Let's ruin this. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, look, like pretty much everyone, I'm going to start with saying I haven't seen much of him because I haven't, apart from a few, YouTube compilation videos that were floating around on Twitter today. I mean, I like what I see. He looks, strong, athletic, pretty like aggressive in his defensive play. The way he kind of like dribbles and attacks feels very like one-dimensional. Do you know what I mean? Like head down and just get to the byline to get across. And kind of like Kufal. It doesn't feel like there's much glamour about him, but that's only watching some really brief clips. But look, I didn't think that right back was really important in terms of strengthening. I thought we would be okay with a Chambers and Cedric doing a job, but clearly
even after the first 3 games.
Oh yeah, I was going to say clearly 3 games in. Now I know that's totally wrong, and so I'm all for it. I mean, I know nothing about him, but there's been many good signings over Premier League history. Whether at Arsenal, someone like Bakary Sagna, was not a household name. Gishelny wasn't a household name, and they turned out to be really good pros. Even going back to someone like Kufal. I mean, if we signed Kufal a year ago, I'm sure a lot of our fans would have been pretty discontent. But it just shows that sometimes, these players come over and they take to the Premier League quickly. So, yeah. And for what it's worth, I think players from Asia, they do naturally have a good work ethic. They always seem to be good athletes. And this kid for a 22-year-old, 23-year-old man, he looks like a strong player. Looks
yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's like 6'2". Apparently, he's really good in the air. Like I said, I've watched him briefly. I've not watched any games of his, but I see why they've signed him because he does seem to be solving a lot of issues where we do get aerially beat. And my only question mark I think on this signing is whether we can actually get attacking threat down with him. But I think that's the least of our concerns right now when we are getting beat on the right-hand side, especially when we look at the Brentford goal that we first conceded. If we had a better defensive right-back, that would have not happened. So, and obviously, like in corners, we've been getting beat aerially. So at least you've got Ben White, who's decent, or Gabriel, sorry. And then you got Tomiyasu, who seems to be a starter as well. Having them two will just solve the set-piece issues that we're having, which we've had for ages. It's not even just under Arteta. I think we've always been poor aerially, and this solves a lot of those. But again, you know what? I'm one of those. I want to judge him once I see him. I don't want to make all these assumptions, and then he turns out to be one of the best right backs in the league. I'll be like, okay, I take that back.
Yeah, exactly. I think we don't want to be too harsh on him. I know there's people analysing his stats quite closely and what he's good at and what he's bad at. I think we just have to wait and see, when he gets here, how he fits into the team. It's an interesting point about him not being particularly attacking, and obviously people are saying, in possession he'll be part of the back 3 and Kieran Tierney will push on, which I get, but I hope we don't become too predictable in that respect, and it always becomes about us attacking on the left, and we've got a right back who isn't comfortable going forward. I hope he can still provide something going forward because, I think it's good for any right midfielder to have someone overlapping them. It gives them, other options, draws the left back out of position rather than just being a fixed 3-2-5, however we're going to be in possession. But either way, listen, not I'm sure not the name that we all wanted, but hey, that's life at the moment at Arsenal, and it doesn't mean he's not going to be a good player. And it makes him our 6th summer signing, which isn't bad.
I mean, Arteta wasn't chatting crap when he said 5 to 6 signings incoming. I guess he delivered on that front. It's just not the 6 signings we wanted to see. Maybe one. I'm happy with Ben White. I won't lie about that. That made me happy. But
honestly, if there was a starting midfielder in there, we'd be like gas. I think it's just that, like, really.
And also that because of the Granit Xhaka red card as well, it almost overemphasizes that. Yeah, you're like, oh man, if we had a midfielder, it would feel so good.
Can I say they did one thing good? They did one thing good this summer, and I mentioned it in our group chat. They extended Reece Nelson's contract and then loaned him out. Oh my God, where did the brains come from? Who in the back room was like, do you know what the smart thing to do is? Let's extend his contract. He's going to Feyenoord, right? Where he's probably going to bang it. He's going to smash it over there. Guess what? Let's renew his contract. We'll get more money. Oh my God, I can't believe someone in that. So there is a brain. There is a brain. I'm convinced there's a brain in this board. It's just used once. So is it like a wild card? Is it like a wild card? Can we just activate it once? But why then? Why not for the midfielder? I'd rather this be the stupid one, and then we got the midfield as a clever one. Oh, I am proud of them. I can't lie. I'm so proud that they've shown a bit of brain. But yeah, the rest of it's been disappointing.
It does look like Bissouma's staying at Brighton, right? It doesn't look like there's going to be a late move for him. So
no, I think he's too expensive for everythody.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so
I
I'm
think
not sure
Brighton
if that just affected
Too expensive. 35 million is not expensive. I'm sorry.
I think for everybody that's interested in him, like us, Spurs, Liverpool have done no business this summer. They've renewed contracts and brought in Konate.
Yeah, they've had a really weird window because they do you know what it is, right? It's like the Premier League's had this old cliche where not even a cliche actually. I'd say it's just a football cliche where you need to renew your squad or you need to freshen up your squad, which isn't, I guess cliche is the wrong word, but it is a fact. Like, even if it's 1 or 2 signings, you need to make them just to be able to compete again. But if you then look at their squad, how paper thin it is, and obviously speaking to a few Liverpool fans, they've all said that, Klopp loves a thin squad, and that's how he always operates. But for me, it's like he should have realised, actually, last season, should have been a wake-up call for him to realise, actually, this isn't we need to get maybe a few signings. But then they lost on Ginny, and I've heard Shaqiri is out as well, I think, or he's gone somewhere.
He's gone to Lyon, yeah.
So it's like you're already thin, and then you've just made your squad even thinner. And then Wijnaldum, for example, it's like Xhaka, for example, where he's always available. I'm not talking about quality, by the way, before people rip into me about that. I'm just talking about availability purely on that. And he's not been injured since he's come to the club. And you need to replace that. You need that man who's just going to be reliable, who's going to be, right, Ginny, I need you to play. He's going to play, but they don't have that anymore. And then they've got these injury crises. So that's why I said they don't make top 4 this season.
This is a good question from Yo-Yo. Thank you so much for your question. Yo-Yo says, any concerns about the assumption that Tierney, Gabriel, White, Tomi, and Leno will work out without needing time to develop? I think this is why we were kind of maybe interested in Trippier, because we have a very young back line, and Leno is not a leader. Like, I would expect Ramsdale to have that spot sooner rather than later. That makes it even younger. And there's no real precedent out there for a young back line to be really successful in the Premier League. I know that you have like Leipzig that had like Upamecano and Konate in their back line, but they also rotated with Willy Orban. And I think he's like 30, and they have a pretty experienced goalkeeper. We're talking about the entire back line potentially being under 24, and most center backs in particular and goalkeepers hit their prime in their late 20s. So it's kind of like Yeah, I think there is something there, and we may see some issues maybe, or maybe Arteta leaning on the Maries and Holdings to continue the development and not make it too stressful. But Harry, what do you think about that? You've said in the past that you want more experienced players. Is this something that you're kind of thinking may cost us some points, is having such a young backline?
Yeah, unfortunately so. But the truth is, the experienced players that we do have as backup defenders maybe aren't at the level either. So I think this window's kind of highlighted to me that for us to get experienced players, they're either going to be over the hill or potentially very close to that hill. That's the only reason. It's the only way we attract an experienced player. You know, they have to be in a unique contract situation where they just want to try something different. I don't think we can go out there and put big money for an established 28-year-old. I don't think, one, we could afford it. And I don't think that 28, 29-year-old would want to come to us. So I think this backline will need to develop. But unfortunately, I just don't think there's enough experienced players out there who would be interested in joining us, who are worth taking the risk. And I imagine the Trippier deal was one that the club thought this could work, but maybe the whole Willian scenario where they just thought, you know what, if this goes wrong again, we're in a situation where we're paying Trippier 100 grand plus a week on a 2-3 year deal, and it's not working out. So I think, yeah, we are maybe assuming too much that these young guys are going to hit it off straight away, but that's the model we've chosen. So now it's a case of, you know, living or dying by this sword. And I just suppose that we have to tolerate a few mistakes here and there with the hope that they become better players. Let's have it right.
You know,
Pablo Mari is 28 years old, relatively experienced, albeit not in England, but an experienced footballer. And he's coming over here, you know, and he's making mistakes. So for me, it's just about whether they're good enough, and hopefully these players are good enough. But I totally get why there'd be reservations.
do you know what it is, though? Do you know, all we need to do is send Gabriel on English lessons, just get his confidence in speaking English up, because I feel like he could be a leader. Like but I think I'm not gonna say. I'm not saying he's embarrassed. Like, that's the wrong word. But I feel like because the other players like Ben White, for example, he's English, right? So he can't really communicate with them because he speaks Portuguese. But you can see he wants to scream at the players, but then he's like, they're never gonna understand me, so forget it. So
What is this? I've never seen this. What are you saying?
No. Honestly,
What?
Gabriel scares me, bro. Like, I would not want to get into a fight with him. He just seems like a big, scary guy. So I reckon, like, if he learned English, like, or if he was confident in speaking, he'd be screaming at those players. He'd be like, "What?" Because he did it. Like, you know, when Leno, when he didn't want to pass it to Leno, and then Leno kind of, Gabriel shut him up straight away. He was like, "Who are you talking to?" Like, and I feel like that's what he needs more than anything. Like, bro, if you need less, by the way, if Gabriel's not watching this for whatever reason, just come get English lessons from me. I'll teach you. I'll get that confidence in you.
Yeah, but do you speak Brazilian?
Oh, go ahead. Portuguese.
So
I'll get Google Translate, innit?
Yeah,
I'll do something,
fam.
Imagine that. No, but he does, though. I honestly think if he knew English, he'd be the captain in the back line. Honestly.
I think also we have two players that have probably been the followers in their partnerships in the past. You know, it's Gabriel was the follower from Louise, and Ben White was the follower from Lewis Dunk. One of them are going to have to decide who's going to be the guy at the back. Because now you got Tomiyasu back there in Ramsdale as well. Like, it is a very young backline, but it's a young team, you know, and so we're going to have to just take the lumps as they come. But I think I'd prefer this, and I'm saying this now, and watch me be upset the first time that this backline looks stupid. But I think I prefer this to the older players making mistakes, because at least I feel like we'll get something out of it because they'll learn from them. You know, but it is what it is, isn't it? What are you gonna do?
No. Honestly, they'll be fine. I'd prefer them making a mistake than a Pablo Marie. I'm sorry. What can they do?
It's not like the alternative is amazing.
Any better? Yeah, exactly. That's what.
Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of it comes from confidence, which obviously comes from a few wins. You know, some kind of fixtures at the start of the season.
They can play a bit of FIFA.
Would help our players grow in confidence, and then suddenly they feel a little bit more assured. And also just our overall dominance of a game. I don't think many defenders have to defend as much as us. Against Man City, that's not a normal game where you're constantly defending. So of course you're going to make mistakes. It's only a matter of time until they force a mistake. So I think as we improve overall in midfield, and once Ødegaard finds his feet and we're learning to dominate games, hopefully in general we just have to defend less. That should be the idea, is that we're not exposing our young defenders or our new right back or fringe centre halves. If we keep the ball and we play better as a team, then hopefully these players will have easier games. I can't imagine how hard it is for these defenders to come and play for Arsenal, and we're conceding 80% possession and 15, 20 shots a game. Of course you're going to make a mistake. It's only a matter of time. So I think the overall plan or goal should be just play better, be better, and everyone can enjoy defending rather than just feeling like, oh my God, this is non-stop. I can't imagine how our defenders felt against City. Can you imagine that? Yeah. Just non-stop balls, non-stop coming in every second. You can't trying to find your positioning, and there's another cross comes in. You try and get up the pitch, you're back again, another cross comes in, non-stop. Like you're going to switch off. Unfortunately, you just are.
After this, can I ask a question after this comment or after Harry's done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, Keenan says... This three at the back in transition is the worst tactic ever. It takes a tremendous amount of situational awareness from the left back, right back to tuck in and out and cover space laterally. It's a recipe for disaster. I think we did okay with it at the back end of last season. I think the main issue was when Bellerin was there. I think he didn't fit it as well as Chambers, and when Chambers came in, you could kind of see what the idea was. I don't think they struggled as much as what we thought. Our defense towards the back end of last season was perfectly fine. I think Tomiyasu and Tierney just have to be really smart, as you've said, and we'll see if it works out. I don't really see it that way because that's pretty much what we've been doing the entire time, and so it is what it is, isn't it? But I understand kind of where you're coming from, but I think they'll be fine, because this is pretty much what they've been doing anyway. Yo-Yo says Gabriel gives us young Koscielny vibes, decisive, although raw. And yeah, you guys let us know.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and Yo-Yo says Emi Martinez would have been perfect for a young back line. Yo-Yo, we gotta let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. I hear you. But actually, the Gabriel Koscielny comparison is really good. I remember when Koscielny first came through, he was really poor on the ball, really, really poor. Just really nervous. Would rush passes. Just would look so uncomfortable. And he kind of developed that side of his game. He was never great on the ball anyway. But I think Gabriel has similar issues as well. But yeah, it's a really good comparison.
I hated Koscielny when he first came. I was like, "What the hell is this?" He was
so skinny upset. As well, wasn't he? So he's like
he's always been skinny. He's just
but he was
skinny.
But
he became bulk skinny. Yeah,
he did. Yeah, but Koscielny turned out to be a really good centre half. I must say, I really liked him. I just don't think we ever had the right partner with him ever. I think Mertesacker wasn't the right partner for him ever.
He's the best example for me of some what you want to see from a player that costs you basically nothing and you want to develop into something special. Koscielny, as you said, his main issue was never having a good person next to him. It wasn't that he wasn't any good, and for him to progress to that level, that's insane. He came, he cost us $6 million, and where he ended up, he was, I think Marcus Rashford said he was the toughest center back he'd ever played against. And that says a lot, So that's what you want from players. You want them to actually get better over time. And then you also have to protect them and give them better players to play with. Keenan says, I think Tomiyasu will fit the system perfectly. Tierney just seems to be really out of position lately. And I'm not sure it's tactics or what. Tierney's a very intelligent player. And I feel like he may be physically and mentally tired. That Chelsea game was so about tactics and not so much about Tierney for me. And this international break, I think, may come at a good time for him. Relax your mind. And then we come back and our back line is more solidified. Arteta has more of his pieces, so he's not running them ragged, But I think Tierney's just going through a bad vein of form. But Souls, you had a question?
Yeah, perfectly comes into it. So obviously we've heard over the past few days that there's been this crisis talk, or there's been a talk where Aubameyang's leading the talk with the players to kind of get them back to the mental sort of level they need to be at, which is obviously just basically kind of getting the morale of the team up. How important, like, because for me, that shows, right, that they're learning from their past mistakes, because previously to this, there was never that transparency of, coming out and telling us that, look, we're having these talks behind back, closed doors, and we're trying to rectify it. And Aubameyang to come out after a loss is something new to everyone. So do you think that there is a conscious awareness that actually there needs to be a culture change, and that our senior players are stepping up and trying to take responsibility? Or do you think this is just something that's said for PR and actually nothing's going to come of it, and that when they do come back from the international break, nothing changes, just their heads are still going to be dropped? Or do you think there's some truth to it, and that could actually change the mentality of the club?
Well, firstly, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for an Aubameyang team talk. I'd love to see how he instigated that, how he
swag.
I just imagine that. I'd love to see that.
Swag.
But well, here's the thing. After the Chelsea game, I think we all criticised, or the Brentford game, we criticised who came out and spoke to the press. I think it was Lokonga. Where's our captain? So maybe they're hearing that feedback, and he's like, right, I'm going to go face up. And I thought he spoke quite well. Obviously, we've just been battered, so you'd hope that he would have a bit of fight in him and almost be apologetic. I must say, whilst the game was absolutely hideous, I did take a lot of pride in how the team walked over to the fans. When the way Arteta walked over, it showed a lot of resilience and character. It's easy just to shrug off the pitch and just with your head down. So I think there probably comes a lot of remorse in Aubameyang's post-match interview. But I think you're right. Maybe they are slowly understanding that there has to be a culture change, or they have to stand up and be counted. And part of me hopes that's almost like an acceptance of loyalty to the manager and the project, and them understanding that, this manager is out here getting a lot of abuse and we're letting him down. I know Arteta's certainly making mistakes, but maybe from the players' perspective, it's like, right, we are united. We do believe in this project. Let's make sure that everyone knows that we are accepting responsibility and we are going to try to improve. But it's the least you want from Aubameyang. It's the least you want, and we've been crying out for years. So I'm almost hesitant to praise him for coming out and giving an interview saying the team are going to have a team
not praising them, but do you think this is a corner turned in a way? No. I think the way I'm trying to say, yeah.
It's hard for me. It's hard to know whether or not the corner is turned, because there's a lot of different factors to why we potentially have started out the season like this. It'd be different if we had every single one of our players and they're putting out these performances, then something is not right, and we know that there has to be some sort of response. Right now, it's just all muddled with maybe, COVID issues, negativity, being slapped around by Brentford. It's a lot of different things. For me, because I know we don't have a lot of leadership in this team, I don't think there'll be a corner turn.
I like that, Turner.
I don't know if there'll be a Turner, until unless the kids step up. I think if they take matters into their own hands and there's enough of them on the pitch at once, and we play a team that maybe gives us something, like we have another Chelsea moment where maybe Norwich is just horrendous and we get a little bit of something, then I can see that. But I think it's mostly up to the players that are not given the leadership responsibilities, that it has to fall upon them, because I don't really see the Aubameyangs and the Xhakas and them being able to galvanize this group. It's going to have to come from them like it did last time. It's going to be harder this time as well, because there's more pressure on the team now than it was last season. You have new people in the squad that are coming into a situation where they're 20th. It's going to be a lot, to...
Yeah, no, the only reason I kind of ask is because I think this is the first time they've accepted responsibility, in my opinion. Before, they've kind of just come out and said, look, it was a poor performance, it was this, that, the other. But this is the first time where I felt like, that there was an acknowledgement that actually this is worse. Because remember the run that we went on, Arteta kind of just went around in circles in press conferences saying that, oh no, we'll turn this around, we'll change it, but not really accepting it. And I think that's what annoyed the fan base more. But for Arteta and Aubameyang to come out and go, actually, there is something clearly wrong, whether it's a mentality thing, whether it's just them, having to talk to them. Because obviously we found out today as well that Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Arteta talked today and they've kind of cleared the air. Obviously, we won't know until kind of Norwich whether that's actually the truth or as the season progresses. But it is showing me that actually there's a moment of realization that Arteta's getting, and I hope that makes him more sort of it humbles him. That's all I'm hoping for, because it does, because I've never seen them take responsibility the way they did against City. And obviously you have to, it's 5-0, maybe that's the reason, but it did show me something different.
I feel like I've heard that before though, the little we have to do better. I feel like we've heard that.
I don't recycle stuff, okay? Yeah.
I feel like
I think there's definitely been like meetings behind the scenes. Or something
breaking
like that.
news! Soul signed for Arsenal's PR team.
Yeah, I could not. Okay, you guys, I'll be right back. Gunner King, thank you so much for being here. You guys know I have to make me something to eat. I'm dying, so just give me a couple seconds. But maybe we could talk about Renarson and how excited we are to know that we're not going to have to watch him have lettuce hands in our goal.
Oh, that's so disappointing. So disappointing. We've lost basically our best player, the one who was going to risk. How are you guys feeling? Gunnar King, we'll come to you first. How are you feeling about Tomiyasu signing, and obviously how the window's gone in your opinion?
Well, Tomiyasu looks like a good prospect, from what I've seen of him playing for Bologna. He can play.
Also, I actually watched him play.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
The thing is, he's played a lot of games all over the back four, even on the left as well. He can play in a back three, in a back four, as a fullback, as a wing back. My concern with him is if you've bought him for a right back, is he a jack of all trades and master of none, like Chambers, like we already have? I think right backs, goalkeepers, these are specialized positions. Like a midfielder, like let's look at Sal Niguez. He can play as a 6, an 8, and a 10. And there are nuances between them that can make you kind of, if you play centrally, that you can kind of pick up and adapt. A fullback role, there's so many nuances within, like, say, a Bissaka, who's a bit more of a defensive, good one-on-one fullback, and a Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, can either become an inverted midfielder or a winger, where he's bombing forward, but still is then coming back. It's such a specialized role that you need a specialist for it, So that's what I was expecting this window. Can he play as a centre-back? And I think looking at his transfer, it looks like maybe we are looking at a free where we play like City, where him and Ben White are on the right-hand side. Either one's as the wing-back, one's as the third centre-back. One's bombing forward into midfield, and then the other's becoming the fullback, which is fine. But then why didn't you just get that done sooner? That's why it smacks of a panic buy, to be honest, Tomiyasu. But in spite of him looking like a good player, overall, in terms of the window, look, the players that we've signed are good. And I think like you summed it up pretty well earlier when you said either you get these kinds of players with one or two more impactful people for the first 11, and then it's fine, or you just only get those impactful first team 11, and then you come back for these kinds of signings a season on when they've really kind of strengthened our first 11 and we've got Europe at the same time. We've kind of done a halfway house between neither of those things, and I'm concerned, is this team good enough to get us in the top 6 where we need to be? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure it is, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, so just on the Tomiyasu, and obviously, I personally haven't seen him. Obviously, me, Harry, and Jess, we've pretty much seen highlight. So the concern that people have is his attacking ability as a fullback, or even just generally. What's that like? How is he actually on the ball rather than just defensively?
He's good on the ball. He can travel with the ball. He can carry the ball you know, to a proficient enough standard. What stands out with him, like in an attacking sense, is his passing range. So, you know, like his ability to like make diagonals from that side might be quite good. So if he's a bit more defensive and sitting back a bit, and Tierney's bombing forward on the other side, or Aubameyang's drifting into the channel on the other side, he's got that ability to kind of pick out those diagonal balls quite well. But in an attacking sense, dribbling with the ball, there's much better players out there. You know, like there's much better fullbacks in terms of like dribbling with the ball at his feet. But
so do you think he fits, or do you, because obviously the way that I look at it and from what I've heard from him is he's more of a Wan-Bissaka type player. I'm not saying, you know, on the ball or anything like that, but just a more defensive minded right back who's not maybe as good going forward. But is that what you get from him, or did you want more of a trend or a more attacking sense, but obviously can defend to a degree as well?
I mean, yeah, I think I would want the latter of those things. You know, I just think it's not that we've lost our way in terms of like our performances on the pitch and the results. It's more like, for me, it's like the DNA. Like we've grown up on attacking teams, you know, on possession-based football and getting forward. And when you look at fullbacks, when you think of like the likes of Lauren, Ebaway, Ashley Cole, you know, like when you think of Clichy.
GK, can I just quickly come in? I think if you look at our right backs, Lauren was a solid right back. I wouldn't say he was proficient going forward. He was okay, but you know, his strong game, his strong parts were his defending, one-on-one, athleticism, you know, just being a real solid right back. Aboué, he was like a bit crazy going forward, but defensively he was a sack. Then Bakary Sagna is probably the perfect example of a right back that is good at defending, okay at going forward, very like one-dimensional, just only wanted to cross it really, didn't want to go inside. So I feel like obviously with the way we analyse players, you know, in this modern day football, is like, we want every player to, you know, be a right back, but also be able to play centre midfield and get on the ball and dribble and shoot and pass and cross. But really, right back, whilst it is a specialist position, it's also a position that many midfielders just play there because it's an easier position to play. You know, it's not rocket science. If you've got a fullback in Ashley Cole or Kieran Tierney that can bomb forward and overlap, then you just want a right back who's just solid, good in the air, a bit of an athlete, reliable on the ball. So I feel like this is a sort of signing that it might feel a little bit underwhelming, but I related it to someone like Kufau as well. You know, sometimes you just want someone who's solid, you know, just solid. I don't need my right back to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't want us to worry about that. We need to worry about our right backs being good defensively. Where we're going wrong is asking everyone to play football. Like let's be hard to beat. Let's be alert. Let's be good in the air. Let's be tough one-on-one battles. When there's a winger coming to you, get into him, push him in the touchline, get up his arse. You know, too many of our players want to get on the ball and overlap and get crosses in and get in the box. So I feel like this is a signing that can kind of highlight, you know, what we need, which is just good defenders. We need good.
But you know what, though? The best attribute that you mentioned, Gunnar, was the fact he could do the vertical passes. If that is the case, then that's exactly what we need, because we know, because it's become predictable that the left-hand side is where we're going to go. And especially when we play out the back, we can see we favour the left-hand centre-back and we favour going to the left-back. This will give us that different dimension to allow Tierney just to go do what he wants to do, bomb forward, and then make the right-hand side where we start our attacks. Do you know what? It's the more we talk about it, the more sense it makes, because we brought Ben White in, who is a natural ball progressor, who is a ball playing centre back in the natural sense, and he's on the right hand side. And then if you add a Tomiyasu onto there, who's someone, like you said, you know, who's got a good vertical pass, that makes more sense in my eyes. Why we done that? Then you can get Ben White and Tomiyasu to start the attacks, play out the back, because we know Gabriel's not comfortable doing that. And then that can launch our attacks a lot quicker, and we can make those transitions a lot more smoother, rather than having to play tiki-taka at the back and then wait for those opportunities to open up. So actually, I get more excited the more I hear it.
Yeah, I mean,
just to say, sorry, I love Bakary Sagna. I'm not trying to downplay his skills, but he was a very simple right back. But he was one of my most favourite right backs.
He wasn't Hakimi. I think that's the thing. It's like, once we got Bellerin, for me, that was the first time that I've seen us have a right back that was like that would bomb forward like him. He was basically like a winger. In the past, we haven't really had that. Like you said, Bakary Sagna was very conservative. Laurent, very conservative, basically a midfielder. So we'll have to see. I also think, because we had kind of talked about this in our group chat, that there's an opportunity for us to maybe put Ben White, in the midfield at times, if we need to. If we're light in midfield, you could play Ainsley Maitland-Niles right back and Tomiyasu right-sided center back. So you have more options in terms of what we need to do. If we're weakened in our midfield, we can pop somebody up. And it just gives us more cover, So I'm okay with the signing. Like, we need to see these players out there on the pitch. I remember when we signed Pepe and everybody was like so excited. And I was like, and then now we kind of know, like, no, just because how much they cost and how much hype doesn't necessarily mean the impact that they're going to have on the team is of that level. And these players may not have cost as much. They may not be shiny, and quite frankly, I feel like some of these signings, if they went to other teams, people would be ecstatic. They're coming to Arsenal and all of a sudden they're not good. So good signings. Wish we would have gotten a midfielder. But I want to talk about Ainsley Maitland-Niles because he's just somebody that I feel like the more, like, I don't know how I feel about him staying and playing midfield. We kind of had this talk in our group chat. It's great that he's staying. I think he could play a role as a utility. But I still think we needed to bring a midfielder in because I think the idea that he can step in when Thomas is gone and maybe if Xhaka is gone and be that guy next to Lokonga, I don't know about that. I'm not 100% sure. We just brought in a right back. What are the chances of him playing there with Cedric still here, Chambers still here? There's still a lot of congestion in the right back position. So Gunnar King, I'll come to you first. Like, what do you make of the whole Ainsley Maitland-Niles debacle in terms of 1 minute he's isolated or in exile and then very next minute he's a part of my plans? And Nketiah was a part of Arteta's plans when he decided to keep him and he never played another minute. Do you think that that's going to be Ainsley's future, or do you think we can use him and Arteta will use him? What are your thoughts?
I mean, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, yeah, I think we can use him. I think that, if you look back to his best times, he's been very capable, on both flanks, less so in central midfield, but as a fullback, I'd be fairly comfortable. The thing about it is it's just a hallmark. I think this is just a hallmark of the lack of organization and cohesion, like between Arteta and Edu, and they don't seem to be singing from the same hymn sheet at all. Like, for him to send out that tweet, I've never seen anything like that. Like to actually at the club in an Instagram story. It's just like, what's going on here?
You're muted, Jess. Jess, you're muted.
Damn.
Breaking news.
So,
sorry.
It's official. Bellerin is at Real Betis. I know that there was.
Do you know
some
that's the shittiest picture to use because it looks like someone we could have gotten. It looks like someone we could have got, like we dreamed of getting, but we didn't actually secure him. But
this is a breaking news headline. You can't interrupt the.
Like literally, I'm in the middle, and he's like, "That's the crappiest picture." No, it's so funny, but definitely like now set in stone. He's gone. It's a loan with no nothing, just a straight loan from my knowledge. No option, no obligation, just a straight loan, and I'm happy for Bellerin. I personally don't like the narrative around Bellerin about him being soft because he's a vegan and all of that. That don't sit well with me because that's not actually what it's about, right? He got injured and he was never the same. I think he'll be perfectly fine in Spain. I do. My question about it is just like, have we actually overhauled the squad, or do we have as many outgoings as we think? Because essentially all of these players are coming back to Colony next summer, aren't they? So what are your thoughts on that, Harry, in terms of, yeah, Bellerin's gone, but Bellerin will probably be back, at London Colney, and we'll be in the same exact position. Same thing with Runarson, same thing with Torreira. We really just Saliba, we really just kind of pushed it to next summer, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, unfortunately. Hopefully, with someone like Saliba, it's different. He comes back ready to play. But with many players who seem surplus to requirements in Bellerin and Torreira, you're right. It looks like they come back and we face a similar problem that we have this year. But let's be real, Torreira didn't go to Atletico Madrid, and play that many minutes. I know he featured over 30 games, but he didn't go there and, really stake a claim. His profile didn't necessarily rise. Bellerin hasn't really played that much for a year. So you can kind of see why clubs aren't chomping at the bit to get these players. As we've seen, Bellerin's taken a pay cut to make this move happen. So he's obviously desperate to play. Hopefully, perfect scenario, all of these players on loan go and have a great season. And when the market returns to normal or slightly more normal next summer, these players have got a few more clubs interested in their services. But I suppose from a wage perspective, it's good to get them off the books because we have less outgoings. But unfortunately, I assume Arteta and Edu would have anticipated a few more outgoings for actual fees, which would have hopefully meant we could have signed a couple of extra players. And I think that's where we haven't got that last player because we haven't been able to shift Maitland-Niles and Ketia, Bellerin, Kolasinac, all of these players that unfortunately, are no longer at the required level. So, but anyway, good luck to Hector Bellerin. I hope he has a great time back in his home country. I hope he plays well. I hope he gets lots of minutes. I hope he discovers his old form or learns new parts of his game to adapt. And hopefully he comes back next season happier, healthier, and more importantly, with a higher transfer fee, and we can actually sell him.
Hi, George.
Hello. Sorry, guys, I'm fashionably late.
No,
we got
you're
a
good.
side
George
team
time,
tonight.
no. It depends on what time you're looking at. If you're looking at George time, it's on time. If you're
Exactly.
looking at normal people time, yeah, you're late.
George, I have to ask you about, Tomiyasu, what your thoughts are on the profile and all of that. And there's questions around whether or not, I was on Elliot's stream earlier and he was saying it just feels like we're buying to get into a back three. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there's a change of formation on, or do you think this is just the piece of the puzzle for that inverted right back position in Tomiyasu?
So I'm not too sure it's the inverted right back that what we think, because when you look at him, he's absolutely played center back and right back quite a bit, but really in his big season with Bologna in 2019, he really was a right back and he was quite wide. I see him very much so in an upgraded Callum Chambers. Very ambidextrous, absolutely aerially competent, and of course can play the inverted right back role. But we're going to see him overlap when we do have an overload on that side and we have a fullback. So what we're going to see is a lot of the same that we've seen, in my opinion, in terms of how we use Callum Chambers and how we use this right back. I think when you do look at him, he's a very interesting player because I feel as though he approaches defensive situations like a center back. And so he's not so much defending in isolation like a fullback, but he's very, very good in 1v1 duels. Now, of course, he's also really quite quick. And, he does have the 5-yard burst that, I do check for. I don't think it lasts quite as long in long distances, but he's actually really quite nimble in terms of meeting his marker. That's not an issue for him. And, he is, like we said, very ambidextrous. I do see him, though, long-term as a center back, personally. I just see what I'm looking at right now as an upgraded Callum Chambers, better than all of our right back options, that immediately comes in and successfully helps us in the first phase. It puts us up a level. We're not going to see the back post goals like we've been seeing with Holding and others in that position. He is very competent aerially, which I think is an important point when you pair it with Ben White. When you pair what he's really good at, which I don't really think is aerial presence, to be honest with you. And I think that Tomiyasu will really do well as a defensive unit. I do think he's a center back long term, though, Jess. I don't know if that's going to be a permanent signing for right back. But for me, very, very good, both footed, yes, and bipedal. I do like to say that word kind of on Twitter. But I'm very happy with this signing. It's what, £16 million plus bonuses for a 22, turning 23-year-old, scouted by Atlanta, amazing scouts, and he has a lot of interesting qualities, and I think he absolutely improves the starting 11. I wasn't expecting this type of signing on deadline day. I'll be really honest with you. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, I was really shocked, like, when it just came out of nowhere. And I was like, I mean, it's not like we didn't know that we were looking at him, but for this to be the right back that we went after, for it to happen so quickly, but I have to get this tweet out here because I think this is really interesting in regards to the whole Ainsley Maitland-Niles conversation that we were just having. And Sam Allardyce on Maitland-Niles. What are you doing, Souls?
I told you, man, he did not want to play right back.
Let me read it out. Let me read it out. Sam Allardyce on Maitland-Niles, he says, the problem with Ainsley in his position, his only position that he wants to play is center midfield. The reason he came to West Brom, which he forced through, Adu and Arteta didn't want him to come, was because I said he'd play midfield. I think we kind of knew that. I think the thing about it is that there was a lot of revisionism in terms of like how long ago he was willing to play right back. And I think he was willing to play right back the moment that his agent maybe briefed Ornstein or whatever. It was never that he always wanted to play right back. I don't know why people were saying that. I think it just fit the narrative. But, I mean, if he's willing to play midfield and we need a midfield recruit there and we haven't addressed it in the market, what do you think about it, George? Do you think that he's good enough to play there? I think not. He's probably not. But what do you think?
Okay, so I think it's worth noting because I don't know, the timeline. Everyone told me I was horrendous for thinking that he had made the choice. And I'm really glad that we've got direct quotes that it can't be misinterpreted. Ainsley absolutely chose his position. This was absolutely up for debate on the timeline. And, a lot of people were saying, he was always open to playing right back. He would play wherever he wanted. There was a lot of disingenuous things, in my opinion, about the path of Ainsley. And I don't think that we've, as a club and also on him, have done everything correct. I think both have done some wrong things. When I look at Ainsley, I look at an elite talent. I love him. He's everything that I really value, even in a midfielder. I felt that his potential in midfield is there. The issue for me has always been an application of talent. What kind of Ainsley Maitland-Niles are you getting? Are you getting a focused one? I think he's shown the world less consistency in that position, really only Manchester United being his one big standout center mid performance. But for me, when I look at the qualities that he has an excellent passing range. There's nothing technically that you've got to teach Ainsley Maitland-Niles. The issue is I feel as though he's very lackadaisical in his play, which can lend yourself poor in midfield if you're not switched on it. But athletically, he's probably our best stand-up tackler. He's elite over 5 yards, yes, and over 15. If you really do look at him in profile, he is very much a very mini, P&P kind of midfielder. He very much could be that alternative that a lot of people feel is well. He's ambidextrous himself, in my opinion. He's very, very good on the ball. His passing, for me, he can fire it between the lines. There's nothing really that you look at him and are fearful of, bar the odd kind of lapse in concentration, which of course is a big thing in midfield. But again, he's young. I see no issue in him in terms of long-term being a center midfielder. I think he can do it. I absolutely think he's got the potential, but I've always worried about his mentality. And I'm not a fan of what he's done in the past week, given the fact that he did tell the club and he did tell Mikel he chose his position. I'm sorry, I'm really not a fan of players dictating their position and then clearly refusing to do elsewhere, because I think that's what those quotes do show us. Now, of course, a player has his right to choose his career, and fair play to you. But the issue I've got is then choosing when you buy in and when you don't buy into the project. And for me, that becomes a dangerous thing. So while I love his potential in center midfielder, I don't buy into the culture of allowing somebody to dictate when they're in and when they're not in. I think that's very dangerous. Of course, you can argue this is part of man management. He's here. You got to make use of that asset. But for me, I'm very uncomfortable letting a player tell the coach when and where he is able to play. And I feel that with these quotes, we can categorically put to bed some of the assumptions where he did in fact do this. So I'm worried about what that shows. And I'm not a fan of it being very unprofessional to air your dirty laundry on Instagram, which is, I'm sorry I'm being harsh, but that's how I saw it. I don't feel that was right. Donny van de Beek has this exact same situation at Everton, by the way, where Ollie had stopped him from going to Everton, and we didn't see this same issue, but fans and media have not gone abroad and saying how bad, Donny is. We've done the opposite here. We blame the manager for that and for not controlling the situation. So yeah, for me, I'm a little bit annoyed with that. But yeah, for his potential in terms of midfield, I see it. I absolutely see it. I just don't know what kind of focus and mentality you're getting, because a switched on Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a serious prospect. I've always said on Twitter, it changes the calculus for our season. That's how highly I rate this player.
Ooh, this is strong. This is strong. I feel like Ainsley Maitland-Niles in midfield is decent with everything in front of him, when he can see the pitch in front of him. When the game is quite stretched, I feel that's where his athleticism comes into play. He's good at traveling with the ball. He can be central midfield, but he can pick up the ball in wide areas and travel. And we saw that at West Brom quite a lot on counter attacks. He was really good at that. But in terms of understanding of the game from a tactical perspective, getting the ball back to play, being switched on, when those balls get played into you from the right back, just on the outside of the 18-yard box, I don't think he's technically secure enough. He might be able to do it. It might just be an attitude thing. But I feel like if you're asking me, who am I going to play, El Neni or Maitland-Niles, I would comfortably choose El Neni just because I trust him a little bit more. And then you also
would you actually though? You would actually choose El Neni over Ainsley?
Yeah,
100% fam.
In centre midfield, 100%. Yeah, I would, just because obviously I have a really small sample size of what I've seen Ainsley Maitland-Niles do at Arsenal in central midfield. I'm not too concerned about what he did at West Brom. I just think it's a different arena. And those games where he did come on in central midfield under Arteta, there were so many times when he got the ball and he just wasn't switched on, just very, very loose. I'm not saying he can't get better. I'm not saying he can't grow. But then you have to say to yourself, do we have time for him to grow in central midfield? I don't think we do. And then I say, from an attitude perspective, if he is our 4th/5th choice central midfielder and he is getting 10 to 15 minutes once every couple of games, what's he going to be like within the squad? Is he going to be positive? Is he going to work hard? Or is he going to kick his toys out of the pram? Just from my perspective, I think how he's handled that situation is despicable. I think if that was a Granit Xhaka, he would be under the bus. I think if that was any player who wasn't appreciated, there would be knives out for him. But because he's put a little sad face emoji, suddenly everyone's a humanitarian or everyone's worried about his welfare. Yet you're happy to abuse. You're happy to abuse players, call players every name under the sun because it's a Howland boy. It's suddenly a big issue. Honestly, I feel like it stinks of agenda when Arsenal fans are more concerned about Ainsley Maitland-Niles, welfare than they are saying, wait a minute, here's a player that's disrespected our club, but we're going to dig out Arteta on his man management skills. Let's make it right. Ainsley Maitland-Niles decided where he wanted to play, which doesn't make any sense for any footballer. You can't do that. You can't dictate where you want to play. You're not good enough to do that. And when we needed him, where was he? He was on loan at West Brom. Oh, and now you want to play for Arsenal. What about last year when we could have done with a right back, when Chambers was struggling a little bit, Bellerin was struggling a little bit, Cedric was struggling a little bit. Oh, but you wanted to go and play midfield at West Brom. So I'm sorry, I'm just not having it. I'm not having it. I don't think it's acceptable. And when we talk about non-negotiables and changing the culture, a player doing that on Instagram is so damaging to the club. Look at the noise it's caused over the past few days when the club is already in a real bad place. And you've got a player being led by his agent, putting out these attention-seeking Instagram posts like a weird ex-girlfriend. It's just really, really uncomfortable for me. And I think I've really struggled with the whole sympathy towards Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He could have stayed at Arsenal and played right back. He wanted to play centre midfield. He made his bed. Chambers came in and done an adequate job. And now you have to come back. And now you want to play. You just expect Arteta to let you walk into the team. No, work hard. Prove you want to play for the club. And he's shown already, a small obstacle, a small hurdle, because we don't want to accept a ridiculous offer from Everton. He's going to go on Instagram and disrespect the club. And the fans are going to back it. Honestly, my mind's blown. If he wants to stay, great, knuckle down, work hard. But you can't expect to play. You have to earn your right to play. And that's one more thing, sorry. Let's please understand the timeline of Ainsley Maitland-Niles' career at Arsenal under Arteta. Ainsley Maitland-Niles played games. He played in the FA Cup final in the back five. He was an important part of our squad. He started last season as an important part of our squad. His form dipped. He got taken out of the team. When we rejected the Wolves bid, Ainsley Maitland-Niles was playing for us. There was uncertainty around the fitness of Bellerin, Chambers and Cedric, so we decided not to take the deal. But he did play for us. It's important that we understand that. We didn't reject the bid and then just leave him out to dry. He still played. He got an England call-up based on the minutes he was playing at Arsenal. Then his form dipped. He didn't play. Then we sent him out on loan. The timeline's really, really clear. He came back from an average loan season at West Brom. We haven't been able to sell him for a decent amount of money, and now he's still at Arsenal. So we move on. And if he comes back from it, happy days. But there's no way as a fan base we should be sympathising with a player who wants to disrespect the club on social media.
Boom!
Wow.
Sorry, it's just do you know what?
It's annoying. I felt very similar.
Fans, and it's just been really annoying me that the take, just because you don't like the manager, you're just every single thing we're going to do is criticise the manager, even if it is a player's fault. We're just going to look at the manager and have a go at the manager every single time.
What did I say yesterday? I'm backing the club on this one. This is the first time I actually backed the club, because the reality is you cannot, and I said it, you cannot talk against your employer. It's damaging. Not only because of PR, forget the PR side of things. For you to say that you're dictating how you're going to play, where you're going to play, how many minutes you're going to play, why? What
Ridiculous.
have you done? What have you done, fam? You're dead. You want to play midfield, you're not good enough. You've not proven it. I'm sorry. What I really want to say, I can't say. The man smokes weed, fam. He's so chilled. He's too relaxed. You need to. The guy plays with no passion,
let's
with
not
no heart.
speculate. Let's not speculate.
No, he
about
doesn't.
him.
I know he doesn't. I know he doesn't.
know.
But he plays like he does. He's too relaxed. He's too calm on the ball, and he wants to play midfield in a league where you get pressed every 2 seconds. Grow up, man. Grow up.
I think this is a hallmark of a bigger problem, though. Like in a wider context, at the moment, is agents and their growing influence. This agent, by the way, similar things happen with. He represents Sterling. I think he did it with Sterling. There's like a handful of other players, if my memory's not serving me correctly, but
he has the same agent as Raheem Sterling, and he's known to go to the media to try to force moves for his clients.
That Reece Oxford as well. He did the same with him.
Oh, the Reece Oxford was a crime. Yeah. That guy's future was.
Just quickly, I'm not saying Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a bad player. I've said many times it's such a shame he doesn't want to play right back because he's got it all. And maybe he can develop as a central midfielder. I'm not questioning his footballing ability one bit, just questioning his attitude and the way he's handled that situation. And people are right, where's the same energy for Xhaka? And 2 years ago when Xhaka did the whole thing, I'm sure I would have, said similar things, maybe not as strong, but we're talking about Ainsley Maitland-Niles now, and I just think it's important that we understand that there has to be. We're all asking for a culture change, right? We are all demanding a culture change. How many times, Maitland-Niles aside, have we seen players disrespect the club, act in a real poor manner? And now we're trying to change it. So let's change it, and let's use Ainsley Maitland-Niles as an example for every other young player. If you're not playing, then work hard. Show application, show desire, show a want. Be like Bukayo Saka and play any position you're asked to, and earn your right. And then you might find your long-term future as a central midfielder at Arsenal. But don't just throw your toys out of the pram, especially when Everton have made a really poor offer. Like Ainsley Maitland-Niles must be able to understand that Everton have made a 2-year loan offer. Why would we accept that? Everton are our rivals this year. Why would we accept
with more
that
obligations?
No.
It makes
but also, it's a 2-year loan deal, and then his contract ends. So he goes on a free anyway. So it doesn't make any financial sense. But on the second thing, right? It's like, I'm sorry, like you've expressed you wanted to play midfield up until this point. Yesterday when you wanted, because for me that is throwing Arsenal under the bus, and it's throwing the regime under the bus, because you're playing the fans' emotions. You know that. So. Why? Because the thing is, he knows, right? Like, people are already against Arteta, Edu, Vinay, and the way Arsenal have handled their transfers and everything like that. It's already a heated fan base. So you go and now say, oh, by the way, I always wanted to play right back. I'm sorry, when have you proven that? You went to West Brom, right, a relegated team, to play midfield over playing right back at Southampton. And I think it was Leicester that wanted to loan him as well, or something like that. You had two clubs who arguably are in better positions for your development, but you chose to go to the worst one. Why? For one reason: to play midfield. So where's your commitment to that right back? I'm sorry, I can come out and say whatever the hell I want, but my actions don't back my words. So come out, and now you've come out and said it. Now we'll judge Arteta. Let's see if he plays you there. If he doesn't, then fine. If you throw your prams in January and you come into January saying, "Let me leave," I'll understand that because you made your intentions clear.
I do feel that there is another side to like the story, obviously, like that we are not privy to on the player side. I think if you look at, say, Saliba, where it's like you're staying, we're going to give you first team chances, then they didn't, then there was loans, and like it, there is some hallmarks of that where there is like hallmarks of the club not really knowing what they want to do with him and not really doing anything with him, and if his story is to be believed, he's saying that he's not been able to have any contact with his own manager and Edu and anyone from the team all summer, and he's not known what his role is going to be in the team next season, so he can make an informed decision of whether he wants to be up for sale or not. How much of that you believe or don't believe, I don't know, but I just think it's just a whole mess, like the whole thing, you know, like. Yes, like how we say, the people are just looking for reasons to blame Arteta and Edu and this regime for getting things wrong, but they have got things wrong, you know. Like, and is this another thing, like where a lot was done wrong, you know? So,
I would like to say my little point on this. I've waited my turn, so yeah, I just feel with this whole thing that I never wanted to revise the history of Ainsley Maitland-Niles. The whole reason why we had to get Cedric is because he didn't want to play right back. There was a moment in time where he had decided he didn't want to play right back. It was so bad that we had to go out and get Cedric. He was still involved in the team, and then he fell off, and then he was on the outskirts of the team, and I don't think he really holds his self in the right way. He's not professional, and he has these moments of defiance, and we know that. My main issue with this is with Guendouzi, who I know has been a see you next Tuesday at past places, with Saliba, who I feel as though may have not been treated like he wasn't abused, but I don't think that every single step of his career at Arsenal has been handled properly. Like, definitely with the loan, that was a mistake, you know. And then with Ainsley Maitland-Niles, a lot of this, if you just take Guendouzi out of it, you just put Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Saliba, a lot of this is based around not having clarity around your future. And then you get some acting out, you know. And I just wonder if there's a way that we can handle these situations as the grown-ups in the room. You know, Ainsley is acting like a child because he is the child in the situation. Saliba is a kid in the situation. And I just feel like we should be able to handle the situation before it becomes a media spectacle, or we're in a position where they need to be exiled from the team, or their value is destroyed. And I'm not saying that we've gotten to that point with Saliba, but I do feel like we need to be more careful before it gets to this point. And Ainsley did ask for clarity and he didn't get it. Saliba asked for clarity and he didn't get it, you know? And so that's my main thing is there another way that we can handle this better so this is not what happens? Because there's a bust up every couple of months. And I believe it's because Arteta wants to make sure that there's discipline in order. But there's also another side to it, you know, where maybe we don't need to be so heavy-handed or not ignore people when they want clarity. You know, Tony says two things are true. Ainsley Maitland-Niles got it wrong for the IG post, which is 100% right. You know, nobody's saying that it was okay for him to do that, but the team may not have managed him well. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that this really inexperienced group of management team may not be getting everything right. You know, I don't feel like I can give him the benefit of the doubt with absolutely everything. I think the media could be skewed towards Arsenal with certain journalists, and I think other journalists are against Arsenal. So none of us really know what's going on really, you know, so that's where I kind of stand with it. And the whole thing yesterday for me was just like, can it not be a little bit of both, or does it have to be one side or the other? You know, I do think that's fair. Maybe they need some work on the way that they manage things before it gets to this point, because we got bust ups all the time. You know, I can't believe that every single one of these players are just bad eggs. I feel like they were managed to a point where they acted out because they weren't getting something. That's my only real point on that.
Yeah, and you know what? Probably to contradict myself, I think where Arteta is is having problems is not understanding that footballers have many different personalities. And Arteta was a very humble footballer, right? A great footballer. I thought a really good player, but not particularly flashy. And when he came to Arsenal, he came as a more of an attacking midfielder and slowly developed into this old school holding midfielder. Was hard working, a great professional. All about conduct and carrying yourself in the right way. And when he probably manages these younger players who come in really, really flashy, a bit of charisma, he's probably a little bit taken aback by that. And he probably doesn't understand, or he hasn't learnt yet how to manage these slightly more complex characters or complex younger players. He probably lets it slide with an Aubameyang because he appreciates that he's older and he's a better player. But maybe with the younger players, if not like Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe, who essentially come across as these really, young, good boys who work really hard, if they're not of that makeup, I think he struggles to manage the younger personalities. So, and it's something that is definitely a fair criticism and something that he has to improve. However, in this situation, I still think Ainsley Maitland-Niles got it wrong.
Well, so the
He
issue
definitely got it wrong.
the issue that I've got with it, guys, is that when we started out, when we looked at the culture, I have felt that for the last 5 or 6 years and more, Arsenal has been an individual team. You look at Ozil, we have focused on individuals. We've created system on individuals. A large portion, whether you agree or not, of the culture change was making sure everyone was competing at an equal level, that no one was treated differently. And that was part of the issue. When I'm going through these situations, Guendouzi is a tough one. He's had issues with every single manager. It wasn't just Mikel. When I look at Ainsley here, I struggle to allow somebody to dictate their future. And when I look at, Saliba, everyone knows how much I love William Saliba. The issue I've got is when you've got us telling him to go on loan to a Premier League club and him declining to then wanting to go to the French club. And when you start allowing your players to dictate your development path that you don't agree with, it's tough. It's a very slippery slope. Now, is Mikel making some leniency in these situations? We'll have to see, because we don't know the situation of Saliba long term. We don't know how this Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation is going to end, right? Apparently, they had clear the air talks. I'd like to think that's serious. I'd like to think that we don't conspiracy theory and we can move on and have kind of water under the bridge. But this would be a chance for maybe Mikel to show that he's not as strong-fisted as maybe other people do view him as. I do think it's worth noting that the culture change of making everyone equal was important. I was a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of us being dictated by player decisions, but at the same time, I am hoping that we can see a different side of Mikel to recuperating these no-win situations, because I do feel that is fair of Mikel. He does have too many exile moments, if I can say that. There should be a redeemable quality, because he's shown it with certain players like Granit, which he absolutely has. How he's handled, his man management with Pepe's red card versus Granit was night and day in the season. We saw that evolution. So I am hoping that these clear the air talks were real. It's just, I'm very cognizant of highlighting these situations because I feel as though Guendouzi, Ainsley, and Saliba all displayed individual moments of trying to decide their future, which I'm very cautious of giving into. I felt that's what everyone wanted to go away from in terms of what we've dealt with Ozil, Sanchez, previous RVP. When we look at our teams, the idea of one individual controlling our narrative, I felt was a weakness of ours. So I think on one hand, I hope that we get this new Mikel. I do. I'm not confident. I don't know it 100%, but I'm hopeful. But at the same time, I'm also cognizant of saying that these situations, they do seem to have a common thread of players dictating their future, which I'm cautious to lean into, despite their clear talent.
100%. I think we cleared the air on that. It's very important for me for us to have conversations about having different sides of things and then coming to a point where we understand it. Because I just feel like on Twitter it doesn't come off like that, because everybody's just, their fingers are just freaking going, so it's true. Everybody's just
everyone's like this.
trying to get their points across. It's just but he's been announced. We got Takahiro Tomiyasu. I hear a lot of tiramisu coming out in the next couple of months or so when they're trying to say his name. It's Tomiyasu. not tiramisu
Tomiyasu.
or whatever we're gonna bottle it or botch it to.
I'm gonna call him Tom or Sue. I might go with Sue. I'm going with Sue.
You're gonna go with Sue. I think I'm gonna go with Tommy.
Oh yeah, Tommy's good actually.
Tommy's good. I mean, we have to shorten everybody's name and give them something, don't we? You know, but it's official, and it's just so funny how quickly deals can get done. You know.
Yeah, let's be real. The Asian market is an untapped, source of income for the Cronkies, and this is gonna. Oh, their enterprise has just grown. Well done. What, all right, so let's think about it.
What are you saying?
What do you think they're gonna buy first with this money that they're gonna now have from the Asian market? Are they gonna buy their yacht? Are they gonna buy another a farmland? Or they're gonna buy? Is he gonna buy a new toupee?
Hopefully a central
Not
midfielder,
stand for
mate.
the Rams
Hopefully a
Stadium.
central midfielder.
No, they're not gonna spend it on the club. Come on now, like it's gonna be go back and that's gonna be amazing. Oh, the money they're gonna make, is amazing. Now they've got the Asian market, they've got the African market, they've got European market. Brilliant. You know what? Brilliant. They've tapped the market right. Because is there another Premier League player who's like Asian who's actually really big?
Son.
Son.
Oh yeah, Son. Sorry, yeah.
Come
that's gonna be
Souls.
I completely
Come on,
gone
Souls.
there.
Come on.
No. I just wanted it to beat him. I don't want it to. Ronaldo, he's plays for Spurs, though, isn't it? So it's a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I could have probably made this little video, but cool. You know, we know that he's not like around and we can't make it really nice. They just threw the little slapped it together, but it's announced, it's official. 6th signing. Looks like the last signing. There's definitely like a couple minutes left in the transfer window. We've been told that we're
10
not
minutes.
anything else.
Oh, does it end at 11? I thought it ended at 12. Oh, sorry.
Basically, what it is, you can, as long as the bid has been made official, you've got an hour to get the paperwork done. So that's kind of. I think it's 2 hours. I think basically you can't make an official bid after 11 o'clock, but you can get paperwork done. That's the only thing you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I think all in all, then
it's
it's
in the early hours of the morning to cover that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
like that.
waking up
TNT,
one morning.
He's dynamite. Cool. I like that.
Oh,
You know?
I was just saying, I remember waking up one morning, maybe in 05, when the transfer window obviously closed, and this was before Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. And we signed Lassana Diarra. It was one of those signings that just came out of nowhere. So you never know. Tomorrow morning we might wake up and there could be some news of another midfielder coming. But it looks like
One thing
that's
I
gonna
will
be the
say
business.
that I just realized, because I haven't been thinking straight, that if Kolasinac is going to Turkey, which is where Fenerbahce is, he has another week to leave. So they still have time to terminate his contract and all of that, I believe.
Yeah, because the loan market shuts later, but then also we're the earliest window to shut. And then the only thing that we can do from today onwards is any English club signings. It's so weird because there's so many different windows that close at different times. The European market, I think, closes a week or two after us. So it's strange. It's weird.
Just so both El Neni and Kolasinac could still leave then, is that right?
Yeah, but the thing about the El Neni situation is that I have a hard time believing we'd let him go with the limited options that we have in midfield, because we can't still bring somebody in, you know?
Yeah, unless you start to see things like Ben White, like you said, or even Callum Chambers fitting in. I mean, essentially, if it's the fourth, fifth choice.
No, honey.
I know.
Callum
but
Chambers in midfield. Oh!
No, listen, he can do that. But anyway, what I'm saying is, but you're looking at
season there for a bit.
Yeah, you're looking for someone to fill in, right? So hopefully we'll never get to that stage. Hopefully there'll always be two of Partey, Lokonga, and
I'd rather just keep El Neni,
available.
to be completely honest. I'd rather just keep him.
Yeah,
Let's
so
not.
would I. But it might be a case of, if you can get 10, 15 million for a player.
Oh,
then
yeah, 100. But we're not getting that, are we?
No, probably not. But as we've seen, it's hard to ship
nice.
players.
Yeah, if we got that, then yeah, I understand them wanting to sell him, but I don't think that will happen. I'd rather just keep him because it'll be a loan-ish weird move. Oh, look at it. He actually looks like a good guy, you know. Boohoo FC in full effect. Yeah, he can join.
Sorry, Nashville, if I made you throw up a little bit. I assume that's like the Callum Chambers central midfield comment.
But don't forget, he got player of the season playing midfield, well, defensive midfield.
Yeah,
it's a possibility.
But he was relegated, so that means
he's already got a shirt. He's got a shirt number. He's number 18.
Oh, Oh, so who's gonna get Hector's number? Oh, he's gonna keep it then.
No, they're going to retire. I think they're going to retire the shirt.
Because it says Tomiyasu 18, so I'm guessing that's.
Yeah, click here to get Tomiyasu 18 shirt. That's booty. I thought he would get number 2.
You thought he would get the number 2?
Retire the shirt, from Harry. That's funny.
Technical director Adu says we're delighted to. This guy. Okay, we're
Is
delighted.
he going to still be here? Do you think?
We're delighted to have signed Takahiro. We've been watching him for a while now, and we're pleased that we have reached an agreement with Bologna. He is an important addition to our squad. Shut up. Mikel Arteta says Takahiro is a strong defender with good experience in Serie A and at international level. He's a versatile defender with great defensive qualities, high technical ability, and composure on the ball. He will be an important member of our squad, and we look forward to Takahiro joining us when he returns from international duty. I think he'll be back on September 8th.
Yeah.
No. He has to quarantine if it's Asian. He has to quarantine because even because I was looking at FPL, even Emi Martin isn't available for another a week or 2 after because they have to quarantine because of where they're playing.
Really?
I know, but he'll be. Well, I get what you're saying, but they said that he would be traveling to London. Then he doesn't have to quarantine there. He quarantine when he gets back.
No, because he's in Europe. He's in Italy, so Italy's not. I don't think they're they're not in the red list.
No, I don't know and it all depends on their sports, the clinic bubble. So if he's not in a red zone, then the minimum is 7 days, really. So if he's come in and he's also in the elite sports bubble, he
just hide him. Just say him. I don't know where he went.
Go in Italy because I'm going there this weekend and we don't have to quarantine.
No. Italy's not a part of the red zone. It's amber for us.
Yeah.
So he'll be fine. He can just come in and basically, as long as he's vaccinated and he tests negative, he'll be fine. But obviously, when you go to other places, I think Asia is one of them that you can't at the moment. There's a few red list countries. So as long as you're not playing in them, you can come back and just basically join the team as long as you test negative. And I think you have to have 3 successive negative tests before you can basically come back in.
I want to see him as ASAP. I need to see.
Yeah, that's why I said hide him. Hide him.
Because I have anxiety like nobody's business. I'm get them all out on the field so I can see them all together. But
yeah, the same. I'm the same, Jess. I'm the same. I want to see
that's
that
why I'm
new.
saying hide him somewhere in a basement.
I want to see something new. I feel like I'm still watching the same thing.
Yeah, no, totally get it. I think it will help the fans. I think hopefully with a positive result against Norwich and these new players, there'll be a nice feeling in the stadium. I think it's important to try and give the fans.
By the way, is he a leader? Can he lead? Is he a captain-ish type or no?
Who?
Tomiyasu.
I would say
I don't know.
He can develop into one because he's very tenacious. He's very good at his interceptions. He's very energetic.
Who is the leader in this back line? That's a real question.
Gabriel, I'm telling you, the guy is scary.
Not the. It has to be Ben White, I think.
No, if you're going in a dark alley, right, out of all of our defenders, who would you be the most scared to see?
That doesn't make you a captain.
Tierney. Absolutely.
Yeah, Tierney. Looking at Tierney, I'm not scared of him. Maybe once he starts speaking, I'll be like, all right, mate, I'm gonna bounce. But Gabriel, just looking at him, I'm like, yeah, do what you want to do, mate. I'm going. He's
maybe
just tall, he's
Ramsdale.
big.
Yeah.
Nah, but he's too small. I'm not scared of him.
Okay, that's not that is not how you decide who the captain is. Wait, but who's the biggest person?
Yeah, who he's so scared of most is how he decides who is captain.
Yeah, who I'm scared of most, Benny Blanco. Well, all I know is Gabriel's teeth. I'm weak. Oh man, I needed that so much. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But I'm glad it's announced. We have somebody. We have something to look forward to. Yo-Yo made an interesting point, and I don't think at first when I read it, I was like, I don't know what you're trying to say here. But then I actually think it makes a lot of sense. Yo-Yo asked, do we have any apprehensions or thoughts about maybe them lacking the ability to communicate to each other? And that's not to be any sort of it's just, what if they don't speak all the same languages and stuff like that? Do you think that might, because communication in the back line is most important. We know Ben White and Ramsdale and Tierney can talk to each other, but we know Gabriel has, like you said, Souls, has struggled in the past to communicate with Holding. They have a communication issue. Then you have Tomiyasu, who I'm not sure what languages he speaks. I know,
the thing
at
is
least
though,
Italian.
the Asian, well, with the Asian like the countries that talk, because obviously with Japan especially, they have international trade, so they're taught at a young age to be speaking English. I've been talking to a few recruiters and stuff, and they've told me there are certain countries who make it mandatory for you to learn basic level of English, and they're one of them because obviously because they do a lot of manufacturing work. They're just told whether you go into that or not, it doesn't really matter. But you have to have a basic level. So I think Tomiyasu might be fine. Obviously, White can speak English, and if Ramsdale comes in, he's obviously English. Gabriel should have had enough time. So I think I'm not that concerned because I think the players who couldn't speak English should have had a year to learn it. So it's 50-50.
I think for Arsenal defenders, you just need to be able to say a few things, which is tackle, man on, head, clear it, and he's behind you. I think he's behind you is probably the key one. So as long as
I am sure that he's got excellent English, guys. I know I have quite a few Japanese friends. It's actually kind of just their business language as well. So they absolutely kind of have to do English. I'm really excited about the signing. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to act like an expert on him because I haven't really scouted him quite as much as I can. But when you start to look at a lot of the statistics, he brings in a lot of what that defensive line is missing. And when I start to look at his partner really in Ben White, I start to get a lot more excited just because I'm looking at what Ben White's weaknesses are. And when you start to look at like a defensive unit, which I don't think gets talked about enough, we always isolate when we look at transfers. What is the transfer? What's he good at? Pros and cons, and have no kind of commentary on what his partnership's going to be. Because his partnership's going to be with White, Partey, and Saka, most likely, and Pepe on occasion, when he does do it. And I'm looking here, and we've got an aerially competent 6'2", versatile defender. That essentially means that we don't have to see Cedric again. We don't have to see Mari again. When you look at what he's great at, he is able to be ambipedal. He's great in the build-up. He's able to kind of play in different thirds of the pitch. He's hitting my personal check marks in terms of versatile player, youngster.
But you said he doesn't have a 5-yard burst, though.
I disagree. I kind of, when I've
no, you said he does, but he doesn't.
He does.
All right,
he doesn't have the longer one. The longer one's the only one I haven't really seen, to be honest with you. I don't know if he's like elite over 15 yards, but I'm just very excited because it seems to be another data-driven signing. So like when I start to look at the window in general, I would argue, and maybe I'm wrong, but Ramsdale, Tavares, Lokonga, Tomiyasu, for me, are absolutely very key data-driven recruitments. And when you're looking at a philosophy and you need to pair these with like sure things. You need to pair these things with level raisers. And, I'm sure we'll get into like our comments of the window. I don't know if you guys have done that before, but just for me, what I'm happy with is on deadline day, I didn't expect the quality. And when you pair it with like the future potential about this kind of player that we would get, especially for 16 million pounds, I don't know if you can go much different. There was a lot of comparisons between him and Emerson, who, Spurs made as a deadline day signings. And to me, the signings are quite clear. Tomiyasu is absolutely head and shoulders above Emerson, in my opinion. When I look at what we need in 1v1 duels, what we need aerially, what we need to complement Ben White, he absolutely is the profile. He doesn't get dribbled past quite a lot. And, he's a very exciting player that I think for cheap doesn't hemorrhage you. I think that was my biggest fear, is when you get these panic signings that they can perceive to be, they can hemorrhage you in the future. So when you look at Tomiyasu, I don't think he's on great wages. I don't think he's big enough of a transfer fee that if it doesn't work out, these things don't do well. And of course, when he's, recruit or scouted by Atlanta who do things right, you can kind of pat yourself on the back and say, that's kind of nice, because they seem to be doing things really well. But yeah, I'm really, really happy about this signing because I think it's got the potential to be really, really good.
Do we think he starts as a right back or a centre back straight away, or
right back immediately for me?
Yeah.
Right back at 100.
Yeah, you guys, the transfer window is now closed. We will have to focus on actual football from here on out with the players that we have until we inevitably get into the January transfer window. And we're begging for a midfielder because we don't have.
Yeah.
So, transfer window is closed, and I have 2 more questions to ask you guys before we go ahead and get out of here. I want to go around and say what, in our opinion, at the moment, it's hard to really gauge it at the moment because we haven't really seen them all play. But just off the dome, best and worst signing out of what we made, and you can also say best in that can be extensions, whatever. We've done a lot in this window, even extending people's contracts, young players, Granit Xhaka. There's been different things that we've done in this window, just besides bringing in the 6 players, So Souls, you're grinning and you look excited, so I'll let you go first.
My best one, and this is where they activated their wild card of having a brain, and that's Reece Nelson. The best thing they did was extend his contract and then send him out on loan. I just think where's the brains? I'm amazed. Did someone sneak into the backroom staff and go, by the way, extend his contract, then loan him? That makes sense. And someone actually listened. I'm just gobsmacked by that. And I don't actually have a worse signing. I think that's. I think the only signing that could go wrong is probably Ben White, and I only say that because it's 50 million. I don't say that because he's a bad player, because the rest of them are only under 20 million. So chances are they don't go wrong. But then if you want to talk about contracts, for me, Xhaka, because I just screwed that entire window. I think if he did go, we might have bought in a midfielder. But overall, we can reevaluate this in 5 years' time when they finally reach their potential and we're competing. But yeah, Reece Nelson, brilliant.
Reece Nelson, you love that one.
Blown.
Love that one.
Look, because it's too clever. It's just too clever. I can't believe it. I just can't.
Gunnar King, best and worst signing.
Best signing for me, my youngster, extending Smith Rowe's contract, tying him down in the face of interest that was definitely peaked from Aston Villa, who, when you look at their club, even before they got rid of Grealish, you could see they are a club that's on the up. They are doing ambitious things. They're making big moves. We're obviously in a bit of a situation at the moment. So to be able to still have that kind of juice to get that done, I think that's very good business for us. Should we have given him the number 10 this early on? Questionable, but I just think based on his profile and what he brings to the team and the room that he's got to grow into in terms of his ceiling, that's for me what's maybe the happiest this window. Worst signing, I think the worst signing is a signing we didn't make, and it's Basuma. I just think that is what our midfield was crying out for. Sorry if that's cheating because we didn't sign him, but I think
I like that.
We didn't sign him.
The regret of the players we could have signed. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's just, I just think you put Basuma amongst the signings that we've made, and I think we've had a brilliant window. I think
tears in my eyes if we had done that. I'd be in tears if we had brought in Basuma. Oh my goodness.
There's too much of an imbalance for players, and players like right now, like players for the future, and ones that can like make an impact straight away. And that's where I would put worst signings.
George, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for the 5-yard pace guy not to go with worst on center mid. Look, Jess, we've talked about for streams for like how long that this is the direction we wanted to go. So it is really disappointing that even in I'll be honest, like our attacking midfielder signing, I was looking for a little bit more athletically there, and maybe just the philosophy change not happening. It's disappointed me. I felt that when I look at the window, we've spent a lot. I don't know if we spent the best. But I'll be fair. When I look at best and worst, I'll keep it to actual signings. I think the worst one's Saliba for me. I was not upset at the loan. I was upset that he didn't get a Premier League loan, and that clearly was his decision. So I'll let him make it. Maybe that's part of step one, repairing that bridge. between agent and player, but I just can't feel that going to, Marseille was the best option if you could have gone to Newcastle or you could have gone to a Premier League where I could have seen the level a little bit more within this opposition, because I believe in him. I don't think that there is really a path that, is 100% exile there. I still have him in my plans personally. I think he's an excellent, excellent prospect. I've said the best center back prospect in the world, and I maintain that. He's
no
somebody
extension either for you, George.
I know.
Get that.
And and that's what I was getting. I mean, he went on loan without an extension, so I didn't get what I wanted. And so that's probably why it's the worst signing for me. In terms of the best signing, this is a tough one, because then you get into like value and you get into who you think is going to have the biggest impact. For me, I actually might go with Tomiyasu, honestly, because
hold on. Before you say that, he's put out a video, so just hold that thought really quick, because he has sent out that little cute video that they do.
Oh, look at him! What a beautiful human.
Can you guys hear it?
No.
Oh, you have to select an option on StreamYard.
Hold on, I want you guys to be able to hear it.
Yeah, just let George finish off then, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think so people might say, like, why not Lukanga, who I think like is excellent. I think they're similar potential, really cheap deals, but unfortunately, or I'm hoping, not unfortunately, but I'm hoping he doesn't play as often as. Yeah, go ahead. Let's play this.
I'm Tommy from Bologna. I'm so happy to be part of the team. I promise you that I'll give everything to contribute for the team. I'm looking forward to see you in the stadium. Bye.
Cool. Okay, go ahead,
There
George.
you go.
So he speaks English, so we can confirm that.
Yeah.
I told you.
I didn't think that he didn't know any English. I was just like, okay, are we gonna struggle a little bit? But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the thing was, I was really debating in my head between Sambi and Tomiyasu, who I think for similar values are going to have really big impacts on the team. But I think Sambi has the ceiling to be a huge starter, but I'm also hoping isn't forced to start every game. Whereas I hope Tomiyasu does come in and plays every game, and therefore has the biggest impact for that kind of a price. So for me, I just think for £16 million for basically somebody that's going to start most game for us and kind of change our build-up structure, for me, that probably might be the best signing, even though I think Sambi has far greater potential. And I think his ceiling is a huge starter, a very key fixture. I hope that Sambi isn't forced to be that this season. That's what I hope. And I hope that he's integrated okay. And for that reason, I'll probably choose Tomiyasu, just because I feel he'll play more. And he'll definitely have an impact on our build-up structure and what we lack on set pieces too, by the way. I don't know if anyone said, the fact he's 6'2" and he's got great aerial competency, that's a weakness for us this season. We have not defended set pieces well. And so adding somebody to that back line that's going to do that is 100%, really great.
But we'll also score set pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Both ways,
We're dead on offensive corners and set pieces.
But now we've got Gabriel and Tommy, so even if one of them's out, you've got one or the other.
That's what I mean. In the back line, we've got an aerial presence regardless of, injuries or whatnot. So yeah, I just think he'll have a huge impact on our season. And again, I think his ceiling is depth. I just want to make that clear. I don't think he's going to be a fixture for us for the next 10 years, but I think he's just going to be a very important signing. I see this window very much like the Liverpool, was it 2016? My memory serves, or 2015? Where they got 5 signings before their big Van Dijk and Allison push. And,
it was.
And I really see similarities to this window, where I think in general, we had really good deals, but no level raisers. I think that's, Gunnar King, your kind of critique in terms of Basuma. I don't know if I see huge level raisers in the transfers, but all very smart areas of need of just good profile development. And so I see that. And I just think Tomiyasu is probably the gem in terms of price to quality and his impact on our team.
No Chelsea rejects either.
We made it through the window. Well, I would have taken
no.
Sammy.
Hold it, because it might happen.
Still time.
Don't.
Tammy Abraham is looking amazing.
I would have
Roma
taken
so
him.
far.
I mean, that's
he's looking
tomorrow.
amazing.
You guys, we're gonna have a more in-depth conversation about the window, what we missed out on, and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm just still not happy about not having another striker. But Harry, best and worst signing, go. Do not say Xhaka extension is your favorite freaking signing.
Burn it,
To be
burn
honest-
it. Go on.
To be honest with you, I'm happy with all the signings. I don't think I necessarily have a best one. I think short term will be pleasantly surprised by the impact that Erdegaard will have, and I think I hope short term as well. I think Ramsdale will prove to be a great signing. I'm just not sure how quickly Arteta will choose him as his number one. But overall, I'm really happy with the signings, and yeah, I don't have a worse signing, to be honest. I'm happy with our business. I wish we could have shifted more to buy more, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that. I totally get the Xhaka frustration, but we did bring in Lokonga. So we are stronger than last year in central midfield, undoubtedly, because in key games last year we were starting Ceballos and El Neni. So we're definitely stronger. So I mean, overall, happy with the window. I think we've done pretty well. And now it's just going to be a waiting game to see how these players develop. But can't wait to see them play against Norwich at home. Really, really excited to, for that game, to see these new players. And hopefully that's when everything goes click or goes bang.
Yeah. So my worst signing is probably going to be the Xhaka extension, just because I just feel like it's just the example of just us not being able to make the right decisions. And I understand that I think because I'm conflicted, because I understand not, what we've spoken about, not setting a precedent in the market, about selling starters at a certain price. But at the same time, I feel like if it was a faceless player that we didn't have the same history as we do with Xhaka, it'd be different. But because it is Xhaka, it makes it more like just sell him for anything. And then when he gets the red card, it kind of just makes it even worse, So, and then on top of that, not getting the midfielder, it just feels like it's that, I do think Xhaka comes back into the team after his suspension, does just fine next to Thomas Partey, and we don't talk about it again until the next moment, but it still just reeks of an opportunity missed and doubling down on something that we probably needed to move on from in this window. But I think I'm going to say my best signing is probably Ben White, and that's because I didn't want him at all. And I feel like I've had a journey with Ben White this transfer window, because at first I could not understand it for the life of me. I was like, they had to convince me that he was good. Like, I was like, I just don't see it. And then, and then I was just like, I just couldn't understand it, because I also didn't think we had the money, which now that we know the truth, we actually didn't have it. We didn't have enough to go ahead and get the midfielder too. But I liked what I saw against Chelsea in preseason. I thought that was a good showing for him, and he showed kind of what he can do. And I think he's going to be really important for us moving forward. A lot of his characteristics is what you'd want from a ball-playing center back, and I quite like him. I think he's going to be something that's going to take us to the next level, but probably not right away. And I'm interested to see what happens with Gabriel. No, he cost $50 million, but I just love how shook up and how bent the rival fans were about it when they know damn well they wish they had Ben White on their team. So, yep, that's it. Those are my worst and best. But last question. Do you guys think that Arteta has been properly backed? At this point, 2 windows in, do you think he's in a position where, because a lot of the thought process around Arteta maybe not being where he should be is he hasn't been backed. That was a big one. Souls, has he been backed? What are y'all laughing at?
George was
probably
getting kicked out of his own closet. Yeah, he was getting kicked out of his closet.
Was somebody there?
Yeah, somebody
They're
was
trying to kick
just
you out?
telling me. No. I don't worry, guys. I've got the closet. It's mine. It's just they're saying bye.
So
has
I'll go with
Arteta
Souls
been
first.
backed?
Has he been backed properly?
think-
Can we at this point go get past this? He hasn't been backed. Is this his team? Can we move forward and make a decision on whether we think he's the right man or not based on this window? Or does there need to be some further, do we need more?
I mean, you can't say he hasn't been backed, because obviously the amount of money that was spent. But at the same time, I don't think we've set him up for success this season. I feel like, look, these signings could be a revelation, and they're exactly what we needed, and they can hit the ground running. But we know truly deep inside these are potential signings. These are signings that hopefully we see to come to fruition in maybe 2 seasons' time, or maybe in a season when they've got a bit more experience, quality in front of them. And when I say experience, I don't just mean they just experience. They have to have a decent level of quality in front of them as well to actually like mentor off of. But has he been backed? I think everyone's going to say yes because of the money spent. But I'm just looking at the level of players that he's gotten. Probably doesn't improve the overall situation as a whole. But he has had, what is it now? I think nine or 10 signings in or something like that now. So technically, yes, but I don't think he's been back to succeed today. But more, can he stable the ship long enough to actually see his plan come, or whoever's plan come to fruition? That's the way I look at it.
George, has he been properly backed?
Without a shadow of doubt. I actually don't think you can even argue otherwise, personally, for me. I mean, look, he's made his choices where I'm sitting here. I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? Where I said I wanted at least 150 mil. I at least wanted him to have a technical leader in the final third. I wanted him to have his players in the back. And I think he's got that now. I mean, you have a whole backline that's essentially his choice, bar Tierney, who I think is somebody that he likes, So he's got his back four. That's his, right? And, he's got his final third technical leader. He got his midfield leader in Thomas Partey. For me, if a coach gets a player in each part of the spine, which I mean goalkeeper, midfield, defense, and attacking midfielder, then you can't say he hasn't been backed. And for me, while he didn't get, Bukayo Saka, he loves him. And, while he didn't get Emile Smith-Rowe, he loves him. He's clearly part of that philosophy. So I feel as though Mikel has nowhere to kind of stand on after this window. I agree with Souls in terms of I don't think that, he's got the clarity of maybe other managers. They may have been set up a lot better to fail. But I think at this point, for me, if you've spent 150 million and you've basically bought a new goalkeeper, a new center back, a new midfield partner, and an attacking midfielder that's your choice, it becomes very difficult for me to say that you weren't backed or it wasn't your plan or it was the club's plan. So for me, I think he's been backed. I don't give the window as high as what I'm saying, though. Like, I do think that the window is a 6 out of 10, if I'm really being honest in terms of my personal opinion on it. I think we've upgraded 3 starting positions, mainly center back, goalkeeper, and right back. We've got a lot of
Ramsdale starts, though. Only if he starts.
No, I'm very convinced. We actually have a deep dive on my channel going in on Ramsdale. Like, he's 100% the starting goalkeeper, and it's not close for me. So in my opinion, we've got 3 starting positions that we've upgraded. We've had some floor and depth signings that we've increased, but we haven't had the level raisers. We haven't had the big philosophy changers. And then when you combine it with outgoings that, in my opinion, haven't been great at all, or good even, really poor, it becomes very difficult for me to say, hey, it's been a great window, but I do want to kind of end on saying he's been backed, right? Like, you can't sit there, in my opinion, and kind of say after over 200 million, if you include the 2 summer windows, that he's been here and they were his signings, that he hasn't been backed, if that makes sense. But at the same time, I do feel as though he definitely could be set up for failure for some of the outgoing business that we've done. I feel as though it's going to come back to haunt us with this bloated squad.
I just don't think he gets to see it out. I don't think he's been in a position. He has been back. I'm not denying that, but I just don't think he's been back to see his process out.
Potentially. Look, I hope he is. But I just don't feel comfortable saying, even though I'm a big supporter, and by the way, I'm still a huge supporter of him. I know it's really unfashionable to say, but I'll say it with pride, and I'm sure Harry will help me with this. But it's
I've got to go, guys. Sorry, I've got to go. I thought, George, you were going to talk for like 30 seconds, but you're going off, so you keep going. Don't let me stop you. All right, peace.
Yeah, so it's like, for me, I think it's very difficult for you to sit there and say that he hasn't been backed, because I think it comes back to a Mikel Arteta discussion about what he should be able to do as a manager and what you should expect. What are your KPOs, your key performance, kind of outcomes here that you're expecting? And for me, when you give a manager 150 million pounds, which is what I expected from the get-go, when you basically give him almost I think it was 8 transactions. Our highest precedent is 11. So we've got 6 and we had a couple outgoings, right? I don't think you can then say he hasn't been backed for me. And again, he's got a player in the spine that he's recruited everywhere, right? Like he's got attacking midfielder, midfield, defense, Gabriel, right? Goalkeeper was his. He's even got some fillers that are his signings. And I don't think the team is his completely. I do not agree with that. But he's got his technical leaders that he should have his plan. So I should be able to see his plan, his philosophy. And I think it is on him. I don't think you can say that the owners or KSC didn't give him the money at the end of the day, because if 150 million is a lot to spend. And I do end by probably saying, I don't think fund allocation wise, it was the best, but it's his and it's his vision. So for me,
Excuse me.
I think it's his.
Who is that?
That's me. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Souls. I was gonna go off on Souls, but it's okay. You
Well,
guys
it's all right,
have
'cause
to
it's
take
Souls.
care of. I was convinced it was Souls. Usopp's rubber band says Arteta has been backed. He wanted Odegaard, Partey,
Yeah.
Gabriel, White, and wanted to re-sign Xhaka. They got that for him. So yes, and I guess because I just want to be clear, because what we'll talk about tomorrow is the expectation moving forward. He may not have gotten, this may not be 100% his team, but no manager gets, in the first 2 years, I don't think they get
200 million.
they don't get that. So some of the players he's going to have to work with, but ultimately the amount of players that he works with, I would hope he would be able to get something out of this group, because a lot of them are the profiles that he wanted, right? But Gunnar King, for you, do you think he's been back properly? And what are your expectations of him moving forward, knowing that he's gotten some of the players that he really, really wanted? Odegaard, from what we've been told, was his number one choice. You know, that's his guy.
For the first 18, he's absolutely been backed, considering that we don't need to compete in Europe this season. The first 18, I think the depth and the quality from that perspective, he's been backed. I still think it's a work in progress for the first 11. I'd say, we're about 60 to 70% there. I like what George brought to the table earlier about Liverpool's 2016, get your 4 or 5 signings to kind of lay your foundations. And we kind of set ourselves up for the alley-oop, where we kind of get those 1 or 2 polished diamonds to kind of just finish off what has been started this summer. Looking at it like that, I think, I would say he's been back to that degree. And I think you can't really expect more, given that it's a COVID environment, given that, you don't just give any manager the keys to the city straight away. They have to kind of build that trust up. So he has to show what he can do with these players. Is he going to be the right man to do the next bit? And it's about doing it in phases. And I think he has to show what he can do with these guys. If we can get top 6, even if it's Europa League, great. Dare I say Conference League? I don't know. I don't want to go there. I think this is a good enough squad to get into the top 6. I definitely think, given what we've got, that is possible. We have to get our strikers firing again. That's my major concern. But Odegaard, his chance creation, I think whilst it was, a cup game, and I think he showed what he can bring, into the team. So I think he's been backed, but I still think there is work to be done in terms of where we can sit down and say, okay, this is his team. He has been backed. There are no excuses, because I still think there are some gaps in that need addressing, either in January or in the summer.
Yeah, I just hope we don't get into the January transfer window and it's all about trying to make up for things that we weren't able to do, in this window. It would be nice not to go into January in this emergency mode, but I know people will, because from what I'm seeing in the chat, the majority of people are very unhappy with this window. And I understand that. When you see people that you consider your rivals making Jack Grealish signings and Lukaku signings and Varane signings, and our players are not really as shiny, and and special as those. And I get that. I do think that I fear the looking over our shoulder to other people and then deciding because our signings are not as glamorous as theirs that ours do not fit us. It's important to keep perspective that we're in a completely different space than those teams, and we need to fill our gaps properly. Maybe we haven't done that, but just because other people were spending mad this summer and buying the type of players that we only could wish, that doesn't mean that our window was catastrophic. It feels catastrophic now, but I have this feeling that some of these players are going to surprise us. Will Arteta be able to get the most out of them? That's inconclusive for me, but I still think the players that we have are quite good, and I'm excited about the profiles. So we'll definitely see. But you guys, we're going to go ahead and end it there. This has been the longest stream ever, 2 hours and 20 minutes, and there's 315 of you guys watching right now on all platforms. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, share with a friend, consider becoming a member. We'll be back tomorrow with the review of the transfer window, going more in depth. Maybe you will feel different tomorrow, but it's been a very long day. I still have more work to do. I hope you guys just enjoy your night, get some rest and relaxation, and it's international break, so no Arsenal for a week or so, and then we get back on with Norwich and see what happens with that. So yep, we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye guys.